Oh, yeah, we're back at it. Let's do this thing, right? It's the boy. It's your boy. It's BC. B Sizzle. And we're back at it. Another Campbell's Rambles. Welcome on into the BCX. X is up for everybody, all right? X is going to get you. You better believe that. The Brian Campbell experience back in your face hole. We took a week off last time of the Campbell's Rambles due to the, Cuervo pregame preview on Wednesday, me flying out to Vegas for the Pacquiao Barrios pay-per-view. So happy to be back with you. Thank you for making time for me each Wednesday. We used to do this around 4 o'clock Eastern. I don't know. I'm floating lately, but 2 p.m. Eastern feels pretty good for me. I don't know about you. I mean, it's 2 o'clock somewhere. So 2-drink minimum, smoke them if you got them. Rah, rah, tip your waitresses. This is it. This is the place to hang out if you want to hear the truth about life, liberty, the pursuit of non-monopolized combat sports. All right. Yeah. Woohoo. Shout out to JBR. But yeah, you're right, Sandine. Welcome into Just Campbell Radio, Morning Campbell, whatever you got to say there. Shout out to creating sound with a K right there. Yeah, I am ready to ramble. I got old eyes. I can't see any small writing anymore. My screen is smaller than normal for some reason. Did I hit a wrong button? I don't know. You need tech people when you're my age. Speaking of my age, 2 days away from not only the return of Morning Combat this Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Luke Thomas, final show away on vacation, but you'll be seeing from at least 1 to 2 guests on Friday, still to be determined as we are looking at this news cycle, which is heating up out of nowhere on this sort of down reactionary week to the loaded combat of last weekend, and of course the look ahead to all things UFC Abu Dhabi this weekend. Clarissa Shields back at heavyweight. Xander Zayas fighting for a 154 vacant belt. There's a few things going on here. So thank you for joining. I'm a big fan of this guy, Remix. Yeah, we're rambling today. Thank you for joining on that regard. Did you just see that face-off between Darren Till and Luke Rockhold for their upcoming Misfits boxing match? Are we effing or fighting? You know what I mean? It's all the same. You live with Louis Dogs, the only way to stay sane, though. Okay, so there we go. I love it. What do you got from your Remix? Like versus Rafe for BC's Endless Love. I don't know what that means, but I love it. Thank you very much. All right. Monzo's here. Give us a hint on who might show up on Morning Combat this Friday. I'll tell you what, we were shooting for my boy Sugar Rashad Evans in a little bit of a reunion here, but he ended up having to fly out. So we'll see. I'm gonna figure it out today. Then we'll get down to it on Friday. But we got some big topics to crawl through here from yeah, you know where we'll go with that. Okay. Remix meant to say Luke versus Rafe. Yeah, I mean, I like working with both guys. So continue to populate what's going on here. No inside the box this week because Rafe Boog's very, very amiably. Is that the word? I don't know. He filled in on Monday. I thought he did a great job. Shout out to Brett Okamoto as well for coming in to recap UFC 318 and keeping this bromance alive. You know what I'm saying? It's been a long time. So there we go. Chinchilla knows it. R.I.P. Ozzy Osbourne finally succumbed to his battle of doing as many drugs over a lifetime as he can. A little joke thrown in there, but it is like one of those Keith Richards type lives. It is amazing the life and the entertainment that Ozzy put out from Black Sabbath to his incredible solo career to reality TV icon some 20-something years ago. So I'm glad he was able to get the Black Sabbath final concerts in. Shout out Ozzy. He's been on seemingly every Sirius XM channel today, and I've been enjoying that. The first 2 Ozzy solo albums after he left Black Sabbath are obviously, lifetime 5-star top shelfers with the late Randy Rhoads when we're talking about Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. But so many great moments and albums on the Ozzy solo run after that, of course. The No More Tears album from the early 90s in particular. So love me some Ozzy. RIP to a real one. They're a legend. There you go. Brody knows about Blizzard of Oz. I mean, Randy Rhoads, who, died shortly after the second solo album there with Ozzy. And then they did a third tribute to him, a live album. This is some of the best guitar work we've ever seen in rock and roll, hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call the genres that Ozzy has floated through. So check that out to honor the late Ozzy and the late and the late great Randy Rhoads there. There we go. We will be talking about a few topics today. Oh, yeah. Also, Friday was my birthday. That's what I'm trying to lead into. Friday's MK 11 a.m. Eastern. Your boy turns 47. 47. What do you get for a 47-year-old? I don't know. I do feel like in the last 6 months, as this impending birthday is coming, and I'm not normally, outside of trying to every once in a while dye out these white hairs that are coming in. Is it ear hair or air hair? I can't speak anymore. I don't know. I heard it both ways, Bubba. I don't know. I just felt like, oh shit, I'm almost 50 lately. But I guess that's the price of growing old right there. So thank you, old man Dave. See you on the street corner. Happy birthday to myself. Thank you very much. 47 glizzies, yes. Project Zeb coming my way. Actually, I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna take my wife's away on a business trip. I'm gonna take my kids out on my birthday, and I was thinking, we might as well just get gnarly. We might as well just get old school. We might as just, sucking on chili dogs, right? All right, let's get after it. Okay, there you go. There it is. Thank you, Brody, for saying I look 37. Thank you. My wife would disagree with you, but I'll take that from you. Thank you very much. All right. I feel like without a haircut, I'm a proper old piece of crap, but you get me high and tight here. I could pull off that this guy's still lingering near his prime. I don't know. Whatever. It's life. Just live it. What do you got, Sandine? Saw Black Sabbath in the 90s. It was one of the shows of all time. Does that mean it was bad, or does that mean it was one of the... You got to tell me. You got to tell me that, old man Dave. All right. Also from Rory Fisher, how did you give Brett on for so long and make a joke about his so we did make a joke pre-show, like, hey man, you're gonna turn on your lights, you're gonna get out of that you're gonna put the lotion in the basket, or you're gonna turn the lights on and let's do it. But hey, great to have Brett on there. Great to have him. Great guy. Have met him, have worked with him, have fought in the trenches with him right there. So great stuff. So here's how today is going to go. Jfish 500 is getting me a glizzy cake. I appreciate that. I'm going to run through also Lazy Bed with his Midwestern teenage voice. 47, you get an ounce of AK-47 nugs. I'll take that. Wow. Shout out. You know who I saw in person one time at UFC 229, Conor versus Habib, was AK-47 himself, Andrei Karolinko, in the crowd. That was pretty wild. Shout out to that. Cumberland gives cards for everybody on the BC's birthday, and let's do it. So I'm going to ramble about a couple topics. I'm sure you saw that Ali Act news that's out there. Manny Pacquiao's next step, some UFC fight announcements to get excited about. We will then open up the floor to your questions. The super chat is on if you want to support this here operation that we're doing here. No obligation. No obrigado. Yes, obrigado. No obligation. Thank you very much. All right. Randy Rhoads polka dot guitar, Brody Moret was sick as heck. I mean, even though the song is a tribute to famous Satanist Aleister Crowley, the guitar work, there's almost 3 solos in Mr. Crowley by Ozzy Osbourne there. That's Randy Rhoads's, piece de resistance or whatever. Hey, you know what I just, because I'm holding down the shop here. I'm Mr. Mom this week, which is scary for those that are going to eat my cooking. But I was in Big Y earlier today looking for something to make for dinner tonight and found a Canadian meat pie already made. All I got to do is throw it in the oven. So I'm going to indoctrinate these kids on what it's like to have a French Canadian father. There we go. All right. Marc Antoine Barrio, shout out to you. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I share the same birthday as your big brother, Olivier, who turns 35 this year. Wow. Shout out to the big O right there. All right. There we go. Good stuff. The late Walter Payton also sharing this birthday. There it is. All right. Let's hit it. Slow week for the BCX. Last week was slow too. Sometimes we're just staying alive here, and I think that's fine. But we'll see if it heats up in the near future. Old man Dave's got an update on that Sabbath concert. Was not great live, but it was the end of a long day at a music festival. Yeah, music festival hits can be hit or miss depending on the setup and the timing. Yeah, there we go. And old man Dave also jumping in. Thank you, old man Dave. Birthday chili dogs for the family. I see you. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're feeling good. Okay. It's a hot one. You know what I mean? Yeah. My Spanish Harlem Mona Lisa. Imagine how mad you'd be that I put that song in your head today. You can't get it out. I told you that old grift I used to do of calling up my sister at college and then leaving voice messages like, don't discard me, and then hanging up, so she's like, damn, I got that damn George Michael, Elton John song in my head for the next week, or being like, it's Ben, and then hanging up right away. You know what I mean? That's how you get them. That's how you get them. All right. There you go. All right. Hope you guys are taking care of yourselves, taking care of your loved ones. Hope you're taking care of it up here. Okay. Put it first. It's okay to put yourself first. Let's go. All right. Let's be the best versions of ourselves. Yeah. It's possible. It's possible. All right. You're going to like the way you look and the best version of yourself. I guarantee it. So it's up to you. All right. You want to toil in this endless cycle of despair? I mean, sometimes that could be pretty fun. I mean, I got a recliner, an Xbox, and a record player. That's my, yeah. I was creating my own prison, but I was okay with it. You know what I mean? Forget Tutu's wing. This is B Sizzle's wing. All right, there it is. Yep. No Cena in the house. Long Island Luke of the main card minute. Yes, it has been. It has been. The finest producer, director, blog enthusiast that we have here in the major leagues of podcasting. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All righty. Let's go. Yeah, we're going to talk Manny. We're going to talk a few things. Let's talk Ali Act. What the hell are we doing here? So you're seeing there's a press release that's been put out on this bipartisan bill presentation. There is stories written from a bunch of sites, but the likes of Sports Illustrated, Chris Mannix, a few other ones. And according to Zach Arnold of the MMA Draw on Twitter, it looks like somebody got ahead of things, probably TKO, and sent out talking points to all these major outlets ahead of this announcement. So what we have here is what we kind of expected was coming, and that is that amendments coming to the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act, which was last updated in the year 2000. Something that's not without issues. It's got some issues along the way. It always has. It's hard to enforce. Not everybody knows, not all the fighters even know the true protection of it, but ultimately created in 1996, amended in 2000 with Ali's name on it, meant to do a few things. I think first and foremost, provide a level of protection for fighters, boxers, against promoters from exploiting them financially, putting in a system of transparency to be able to see, okay, this is how much I'm getting paid. This is how much the whole card made. I think that's one of the key parts of this act that people don't talk about. But what we are seeing Congress introducing here is Republican Brian Jack, the congressman from Georgia, and former MMA fighter Sharice Davids, a Democrat from Kansas, are putting together this amendment to it. And look, I don't try to automatically be the anti-Dana, anti-TKO, anti-Turkey guy here. I try to be the guy that's telling the truth here. This feels like bullshit to me. This feels like, let's get ahead of it. Let's put out some fresh pluses, and let's try to show the people that boxing's broken and dead, and the only way to fix it is to do this. And, it sounds good at the surface, these changes. There are things from, increased healthcare protection, increased minimum payments on smaller club shows, things that certainly you could say from a distance looking at it, is boxing broken or broken-ish? Yeah, it's long been, but it's long operated like that for a long time. But if TKO can lead, which it seems like they're doing here with this idea that we're raising health coverage, we're raising this, we're raising that, you could get a lot of people, including the widow of Muhammad Ali, who came out, put out a statement, supported it. Lonnie Ali's quote was, the sport of boxing provided the pathway for Muhammad to become a global sports and cultural icon, blah, blah, blah. Boxing elevated his public platform. Of course, he would be proud to have his name associated with a bill like this that, in theory, right, helps the fighters. But I think, like a lot of the rhetoric we see on both sides in American politics, it's let's lead with something that everybody can get a hold of and relate to, but let's maybe not tell the full story of why we're here and what we're trying to do. The biggest thing that seems to be coming with this Ali Act bill is to, let's put it in plain English, potentially allow Zuffa Boxing, TKO, Turkey, this new empire that is looking, let's be fair, let's say it right up, they're looking to monopolize and control this entire sport. Not my words, basically them. Turkey saying at the March 5th press conference, we will crush our competition, even though most of that competition is still sucking on the nip of Turk. to stay alive, he's also building relationships with their fighters, right? So when that deal is up, who are you going to go with? Your old American promoter who's struggling to be on TV, or this guy Turkey that's been sliding hundos in your back pocket, right? So that's the direction we're going here. And I think most importantly for that direction, for TKO to try to come in here and not just compete as another boxing promoter, but literally have ambitions of building a moat around the castle, building up walls around it and saying, you're either with us or you're against us. You're either in our system or you're nothing. How will they do that? Well, they are announcing the hopes here of changing to move away from the structure we have now, the 4 sanctioning body, 4 belt structure that we have now. Is that structure perfect? No, it's largely a debacle. But the reason why it's in there on the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act is so that promoters don't have this iron fist power over fighters to the level of, oh, we're in disagreement, I'll strip you of the title. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't like you so much, you're not in my rankings anymore. There's obviously further issues that the sanctioning bodies, all 4 of the major ones, are I mean, corrupt would be an aggressive word, but have we seen through the years evidence of this? Yeah. Do they go back on their own amendments and rules regularly? Yeah, they do. But what this is trying to do is create a new lane within the boxing congressional Ali Act structure, which is you can either go that way or you can go the new way, the UBO. What does UBO mean? The Unified Boxing Organizations. So this Ali Act amendment would allow somebody like UFC to come in and basically open up shop as Zuffa Boxing, have their own world titles, their own rankings, not have to deal with those sanctioning bodies and all of that. And what you're seeing here is Mike Mazzulli and the ABC bending over backwards to be a part of this, to help them create this so that young fighters coming into the sport can pick which way they go. Why does it benefit UFC to do this? Obviously, the control. They want to create the UFC of boxing. Well, they're following the old script of how they purchased UFC for, bare bones money. Timing really, really interesting that Lorenzo Fertitta gets off the Nevada Athletic Commission board just in time after they turned down every other promoter's hope of buying the brand, and suddenly it's perfect for Zuffa to buy it. Okay, it happened. They ran at regulation. Same thing they did in Power Slap right here. They're following that model, but these amendments will help them. Will they raise certain lower bars for healthcare and minimum payments? Sure. That's the bait. That's the sell out there to people. But this is 1000% about helping them become boxing, not a leader in boxing, not another promoter in boxing. They're armed with Turkey's wealth. They've got the regulational support here from these Congress people, from Donald Trump in the White House, obviously, so you got to ask yourself, I'm not saying the old model's perfect, but they're not amending a new model that helps everybody. They're trying to amend a new model that only helps themselves and allows a new structure. I think what they want to do, I'm really honest about that. I think what they want to do is age out all the fighters right now that make good money, that have championships and other sanctioning bodies. And it's this beginning of all the fighters that come in, we're going to bring them in through our system. And raising those minimums, which is, in theory, a good thing, also has the potential to kill club boxing. It has the potential to kill the lower minor leagues of boxing in a lot of ways. And wouldn't UFC just love that? You have to really see things for what they are. Look at how UFC changed regional MMA by essentially creating a system on UFC Fight Pass where they're going to pay these promotions to be on there, and they're essentially paying them to keep them alive. But these promotions are becoming direct feeders for the Dana White Contender Series. You can't get into the DWCS unless you sign with your promoter on that regional level to become your manager, so that when you get to DWCS, we can hand off to Jason House or whoever, and we can keep going right there. This is the creation of that in boxing. It's wild to me. It's not surprising, but if all this goes through, this is the beginning of a new dawn. And as much as they're leading with things like, this is going to help the minimums, this is going to do all these things, I feel like this change is about a lot of other things, the transparency, the control, and all of that. So it's easier to sell the narrative that this sport's dead and gross and boring and gone, and maybe they can fix it, but them fixing it is going to be in their image. The food on the cruise buffet tastes really good on days 1 and 2 until you realize that the leftovers from the night before in the dining room are in today's buffet, and everything tastes like Dana. That's where we're going. So if that doesn't matter to you, then we'll move on. But is it so much that I don't want Dana and Turkey in control of this sport I love, or is it so much that I don't want one singular entity? More the latter than the former, but the track record of the former isn't making me all that excited, because for as much fun as it has been as a fan and journalist on this journey of watching the UFC, and yes, I do go back to like UFC 3 and 4 and watching on the illegal pay-per-view box. So it's like I've been here for the journey. This is how they do it. This is how they financially, have a stranglehold on the fighters. This is that beginning. And it feels like if there's going to be an opposition, which is going to be rich, this is like the pro wrestling business in the mid 80s when Vince went national. Yeah, they tried to band together and create a alternate league or create these super cards that can compete. But you ultimately have a bunch of sharks that don't want to work together, that are working together because they kind of feel like they have to, and it's inevitably going nowhere. I don't see a resistance coming here. So the way that this is going to have to work, though, is how does Zuffa Boxing and Turkey and Dana and all that merge the two plans? The one plan is we're launching on Netflix and Dana's the promoter. The second plan is we're launching this prospect league, and I'm sure they're in the midst of negotiating it right now. How do they merge? How do they bring that together? Do they need to buy a major promotion to do that? How quickly can they sign young fighters? It's not a tomorrow thing by any means. I'm sure they're a lot smarter than I'm giving them credit for, and they've already got this mapped out on how they're going to merge those two visions together. But if those two visions get merged together, this is it. This is the beginning. This is the takeover. And they've got legislation now to seemingly back them up, a bipartisan bill of people saying, yeah, we want better protections for the boxers. So let's give it to the UFC guys who, all right, you get the point. All right. Yeah. What do you got, Brody? It's not our problem, BC. All these promoters all sold out to Turkey. True fact. So I can't feel bad for them when Turkey cuts them and brings in Dana. I also agree. And also, look, they telegraphed it March 5th. They telegraphed that everybody else is out, right? So, the fact that all of these promoters really out of necessity are still hanging on, it's going to be a rough reality when that line in the sand finally gets drawn. You would think that there should be some effort in trying to promote against that or join up or something. But unless you have a singular entity with a ton of money that can compete and call the shots, that's going to be hard to pull off in this wild west. So maybe the success that Saudi couldn't fully have in soccer or golf, they may be able to ultimately realize here in boxing, because that barrier to entry is so low and because it really is the most disorganized. There we go. But that's what we got. There was topic number 1 for you right now. All right. It is 12 threes. You're not wrong. That's business, bro. Stall them out. Then bring the big bucks cream. Yeah. Dollar bill, y'all. It hits home because, this is my life. This is my passion. That's the spirit I bring to this sport and this show. And I saw this coming a while back, and it's here. So there we go. All right. What do you got? Banned from YouTube. Don't struggle. Ozzy died old in a genre of rock whose stars rarely left past their 40s. He gave you one last performance and died as he lived, a metal god. Indeed. I mean, what a run. What a freaking run. It's crazy. It's, the 27 Club, which gets talked about all the time in rock. All those great rock stars that died at the peak of their artistic powers, usually of drugs, at age 27. And not that I want to necessarily trade. Oh, can I trade Jimi Hendrix to live forever and Ozzy to get, go down at 27? No, I don't want to do those type of death deals. But damn, it is rough when so many great ones don't make it out of this lifestyle. And then some of these just, it's like fighters who have, boxers who have 80 pro fights and at age 60 still can talk fluently. And it's everyone's different. All right. AZ Rays, my boy Arturo, you watch Superman 2025, you'll dig it. No, I don't really get down with that. I went to Black Adam as a good father in the theater, and I really found out. Okay, all right. Hey, Thor: Love and Thunder, not that bad. I don't get down with the rest of the superhero stuff. I don't really like sci-fi or superheroism. I like Star Wars, and I like the original Star Wars, Dune. That's about it. All right. Sorry. I mean, you're not going to get me to do like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or, yeah. All right. There it is. Topic 2 here. We got some fights. Can we get excited about that? Is it fair? Is it fair, BC, that we would get excited about that? What we still don't seem to know is this UFC 319 co-main event. So when it was teased on the socials that Dana White was going to jump in with some news yesterday, I was really hoping it was going to be the co-main for DDP versus Chimaev in Chicago. Not yet, but 320 and 321 do have additions worth talking about. Let's go over to UFC 320. It's going to go down October 4th. T-Mobile, your big October Vegas pay-per-view. And you know what? This is pretty damn good. Magomed Ankalaev, Alex Pereira, part 2 in the main event. So all those sleuthers out there that were watching 247-pound Pereira on social media thinking what a lot of us were, is he going to fight Aspinall next? No. This is the right fight to make, in my opinion. I don't want Alex Pereira to eventually go up to heavyweight and try to become a 3-division champion coming off of a loss here. He did that at middleweight. Yes, he did do that at middleweight and went up and won that title at light heavyweight. But I got to see him come back healthy and see if he handles his business here. This is going to be a really fun fight. Co-main event, love it. Merab on a quick schedule as he wanted to right now, maximizing his prime, coming back against Corey Sandhagen. Is he the last big name that Merab hasn't cleaned out in this era? Can Merab go to 14 consecutive wins here as we're creeping up on Islam looking to tie Anderson Silva for 16 consecutive wins in the UFC record? Something to watch there. How about the banger, just matter that they added at light heavyweight, Yuri Prochazka, Khalil Roundtree Jr. Love it, need it, want it, slather it. We do have like a couple other extras on there. Edmund Shabazian, Andre Muniz. Okay, I'm in. Macy Chazon, Yana Kunitskaya Santos. Yeah, okay. Joe Pfeiffer, Planes, Trains, Automobiles, and a Boost. Magomedov. Yeah, all right. Okay, that's cool. You down with that? Yeah, I'm down with that. There we go. I'm trying to be a happier UFC fan now. I'm trying to do it for the people, all right? I'm trying to not look at everything through the impending doom of business and the evil empire. We also, Rafe is teaching me that because Rafe doesn't deal with that BS in boxing. We don't want to talk about promoters or commentators or networks or whatever. We want fights. Give me good fights. I'll give you an honest reaction. All right. There we go. There it is. What am I wrong with here, Cosmo? Not true. Poatan was coming on. Okay. Yeah. You're right. He had the one fight first against Jan Blachowicz at 205 to get his feet set. You're right. I was wrong on that. My setup in time. Dead wrong me on a Wednesday. There you go. All right. Then we got UFC 321. Let's see what we got here. We got the heavyweight championship. So John Jones, if he is coming through that door at the White House, well, it's still a year away. It's all we know, it seems, in terms of the big fights is Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane. Finally, for the full belt, October 25th, Abu Dhabi, UFC 321. So that's 2 pay-per-views in October there. Interesting. We had that, in June? But I mean, the cupboard's kind of bare, so you kind of have to do this right now. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's kind of in between. The thing I don't love about it is that Gane, despite being on a 2-fight win streak since his very meeble loss to John Jones in just over 2 minutes back in 2023, he didn't beat Alexander Volkov. And I'm not saying Volkov Aspinall 2 here is overly necessary. At least Gane is a fresh opponent in this regard. It's sort of the guy we thought who was going to be heavyweight 2.0 Gane against the real heavyweight 2.0, or so we think in Aspinall, although it would be nice to see Aspinall in rounds 3, 4, and 5 and see what we really got going on there. But considering the situation, considering the soap opera that John Jones built up and then left behind, all right, I'll take it. All right, I'll take it. Also, 12-3 says Gone is the guy I seen on that movie. What movie are we talking about here? What movie? What are you doing? All right. Also on that card, UFC 321 in Abu. Alexander Volkov, Jalton Almeida. Like that a lot. Alexander Rakic versus Azamat Mirzakhanov in. And then flyweights Mitch Raposo and Azat Maxim. All right. All right. There we go. There we go. So, yeah, good. To be fair on the UFC, let's be fair on the UFC. All right. I come here to be fair. Main events, they're killing it. They're killing it. Summer and fall. It looks like they're killing it. It looks like we're on a good run. I don't know still if last year was so largely mailed in because of the impending amount of money that they were going to have to pay at the end of that lawsuit. I don't know. I don't know why this year has been like that. Is it just the corporate greed? I don't know. Well, let's move that conversation aside because they're bringing it. Do I want better depth in cards? Yeah, I want a lot of things. I'm hoping that, however, this new TV deal that hopefully will be wrapped up at the end of this month, so that hopefully every other MMA and boxing promotion that's waiting to see where UFC goes and then see where they're going, we can all figure this out. But let's hope that a new TV deal with different parameters, multiple bosses to please, that it can't be mailed in like the tail end of the ESPN deal was. All right. Top Rank kind of mailed to some degree their tail end and they lost their deal. Let's see UFC step it up. You step it up, I'm here for you. Let's go. Okay. There it is. All right. Finally, a bright spot, Arturo would say. Finally, a peak through a valley. There we go. All right. We ain't haters here. We're just honest. That's actually what my son Isaac always tells me as he calls me out. It's like, Dad, I'm just being honest. You teach me to be honest. I taught you to be honest, son. All right. I mean, you have to tell me that I'm fooling myself with this hair dye thing, but that's fine. That's fine. There you go. All right. All right. Cosmo Kramer, this year hasn't been bad. BC, stop it. No, it hasn't been. It has been annoyingly disappointing at times when it's self-induced, in my opinion. The jacking up of prices, the watering down of cards, the mail-in apexes. Yes, it is like, it's sort of like if you are going to tout this financial success that you earned it. Make sure the product grows at the same level as you financially. That's just me talking. All right. That's just me talking. There we go. Yeah. JL in the house. Don't need no hateration in this dancery. I agree with you. I agree. Let's get happy again. Okay. Let's have fun in combat sports. There it is. Don't need no hate or rating. All right. So, other topic. What is Pacquiao going to do now? Interesting thought. I know not everybody needs to see him again, although we're giving him a rightful amount of praise for the performance he had on Saturday. It was wild to watch in person ringside. It was, you're waiting for this fool's gold oasis to fall apart. And I don't mean the Gallagher brothers reuniting. I mean, like, you're waiting for him to gas out. You're waiting for this not to be real. Was it ultimately helped by a poorish performance from Barrios? Yes. I believe ultimately that Barrios was far too focused on his fear of getting caught clean with a quick left hand and really just went into safety boxing mode and ultimately sort of rallied to backdoor decision. I don't think anybody wants to see this rematch. Because if you really think about it, Barrios is going to have to wake up to some degree of what he didn't do. If he fixes that in the rematch, does this fight have a great chance to be exactly what it was over again? Or worse, could he get violent enough to sort of, Chinchilla's like, no, he ain't violent enough. I see you. It's possible. The question is, can Manny not only do this again, but is what he's saying true? The after the fact reveal that he trained hard for this. He had a drama-free camp. That's a big part of it. It wasn't the case ahead of the Ugas fight, and you saw the results. But he's saying, look, what if I get back into year-round training? What if I get back into the lifestyle? It doesn't look like he's running for office anytime soon. It looks like that dream he found, he effed around on the presidential level and he found out. So I guess it is possible You know, if he went into another training camp, he could look just as good or better. But obviously, at this age, it is a bit of a crapshoot. And actually, you know, obviously, he did fight an opponent who was limited enough and maybe intimidated enough at certain points not to be as great as he can be. But Manny's saying straight up, I ain't done. This is just the beginning of this comeback. I'm sure in reality, it's going to be a fight by fight thing. But did he fight well enough? I mean, look, he fought well enough that people thought he got robbed. So yeah, he did fight well enough to earn/deserve another fight if he wants it. Um, the crazy thing is this welterweight division is at such a low at the moment compared to history that there's openings. PBC has a secondary title holder in Rolly Romero coming straight off of an upset win of Ryan Garcia. What if you made that fight? You'd have the threat of Rolly's knockout ability offset by the fact that Rolly is, you know, far from a technical giant when it comes to boxing, even though he stuck to his strengths beautifully against Ryan Garcia and ultimately pulled off a wild upset. But that fight would be fire, Pacquiao versus Rolly. It'd be a little scary at times too. It probably would be a fun-ish build. Look, you know, Pacquiao builds are normally not all that fun because he's such a nice guy. Let's be fair. Maybe it could be. Maybe there could be something going on there. Okay, maybe there could be a little bit of fun business. Manny, next fight will be, this is 12-3s talking, will be one of sales. Better make it a good one. I don't think they do it again because I don't think Barrios is overly marketable, and he just killed his current stock with that performance. So I don't think you're going to, you know, have people jumping at the idea to see Manny try to go do it a second time against him when they kind of felt like they saw him be the better fighter, even if you scored the draw or 7-5 Barrios like I did. Look, a lot of close rounds in there where Manny rallies in the last 30 seconds, and then you're like, man, those 3 power punches he landed, I kind of like those better than the 13 jabs Barrios, you know, landed from distance, what have you. But what is interesting here is there's that one other idea. And there's problems with that one other idea. But I seem to be the only person throwing out that one other idea until I saw a tweet yesterday of an outlet that was quoting Sean Gibbons, the manager / promoter there of Manny at MP Promotions, the longtime boxing mechanic who's done it all, seen it all, been a part of it all, saying publicly that not only will Manny come back, but the 2 opponents we're looking at are Rolly Romero outside of Floyd. Manny would do Floyd tomorrow. I'm sure PBC would do Floyd tomorrow. I'm sure it comes down to does Floyd actually want to be in like a real fight at this age? To be fair, he's 48. He can do whatever the heck he wants, right? He can do whatever he wants. But the other option Sean Gibbons said in this tweet was Tank Davis. Now, there's a lot of problems here. One, you know, Tank is likely or very possibly on his way to jail time from his most recent setback, relapse, whatever you want to call it, with the domestic violence. There's also, you know, talk that Tank still could, the word here is could, have that rematch with Lamont Roach next month. But is that it, when you have time? Look, I thought Pacquiao versus Tank should have happened 2 to 3 years ago. I thought it was, you know, or, you know, before. Okay, let's be fair. Either before the Ugas fight or even after, even a year after it. Let Manny get back into shape. It's the 12-3s knows. That's the sale I speak of. You would do it because it's the same reason why you did Manny versus Oscar. It's the passing of the torch. It's the idea that of the older, bigger fighter, will he have enough of advantage against the smaller, better fighter to give us an interesting fight. Now, Manny versus Oscar ultimately wasn't interesting. It was one-sided, and the hard weight cut back down to 47 there for Oscar killed him. Oscar's lifestyle killed him too, let's be fair. I don't know. If there would be, I mean, Luke Backman might not be wrong here. And shout out to Luke Backman. This youngster's going after it. Tank Pac-Man would be insane business. It would. It brings in a lot of different audiences, an older boxing audience with a younger one, a more celebrity based, different clientele against. I mean, I saw that Filipino clientele there Saturday in Vegas. It was loud. It was awesome. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, is that a really bad fight for Manny? Is he going to get hurt in a fight like that? Certainly, you can talk yourself better into the odds of him competing and doing even well potentially against Rolly. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think if you're PBC, you can't be angry. I mean, no one probably loved that decision. because nobody got put over. I mean, Manny subtly, subtly got put over as sort of, okay, with my eyes, he probably fought better. Barrios takes a step back. But Manny's still having at least one more fight of viability. It is going to be interesting what could be done with that. So that's what your boy BC's saying on this Wednesday. What do you say? Monzo, Manny versus Rafe to see who's the greatest Filipino ever. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. Okay. Brody, Manny Floyd 2 got me feeling like 2007 again. The hype is real. I don't know what the reaction would be, to even be fair, because it's a 48 and 46-year-old man. Would the reaction be better if Manny had won that title and now we're doing a title fight with two guys pushing 50 again? Maybe it's better without a title if it was possible to happen. What kind of stakes are we looking at? You'd be looking at Floyd's unbeaten record on there. That's the stakes that would be on the line. The idea for Pacquiao to potentially walk away saying, I beat my greatest rival. I mean, Tito Ortiz can also say that about Chuck Liddell, right? Finally, after the third one, but people won't believe that. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see what's gonna happen here. All right. Thank you very much. All right. What else you got, Brody? BC, we need Manny as president versus Conor as president at the White House. Dude, that fight, which felt like it should have happened and didn't. And, there was that time that Manny signed with Audie Attar, Conor's representative, and then that ended in a lawsuit. And obviously, you're going to need the UFC to sign off on something. But if it was possible to make a fight like that, like if Turkey got involved and then by proxy Dana got involved and then you did that on Netflix, for example, you can make a lot of money and make a lot of people talk and get into that. I think this is a situation where, yes, Conor's PR value at the moment is down aggressively with all of his bad turns legally and the way he's carrying himself, but would people have the interest in seeing if he still got it mixed with the, I want to see him get KO'd? Yeah, it'd be a spectacle. It'd be weird. It'd be, one of those other type of fights, but is this one of the better versions of those other type of fights we could make? I don't know. Probably. All right. All right. What else you got, Luke Backman? My name. Great work on the call, BC. Thank you, Luke. I did feel like Barrios had too much respect. Even Bob Santos was calling him out in the corner after every round. Yes. And Bob, Bob sort of said this subtly before the fight, that was something that they were focusing on, that maybe in the past Barrios had been, it's not that Barrios isn't a warrior. He's been in some wars. The Abel Ramos fight was a drag out war down the stretch. He can handle himself in wars, but there's a difference between that and having that Terrence Crawford style meanness, that backbone that says, even though this is a competitive fight now, my goal is still to figure out a way to hurt you and get you the fuck out of here. Okay. Sorry, I said the F word there, but I meant it. He don't have that. He may never have that. Not everybody has that. It's weird to see a guy who is a warrior, who looks like a warrior, but doesn't have that. I guess it's a character flaw. But also, Pacquiao was quicker than most of us thought, quicker than Barrios thought. And he was still able to use his legs to leap in and set up these shots. And when you think you know how it's going to go, and then that left hand is catching you, it's the same thing I say about the second half of the De La Hoya Mayweather fight on my wedding night, 5-5-07, where, yes, ultimately Oscar gassed in the second half, and that cost him, because don't forget, at like the midpoint of that fight, it was basically an even fight, if not Oscar in control. But I really think outside of the fatigue, ultimately, once Floyd makes that adjustment, which he does in all of his fights, and it starts to be able to throw that lead right hand against you. That lead right hand, by the way, disciplined Manny in rounds 1 and 11 of their fight in 2015 of Manny versus Floyd. And I really believe it disciplined Oscar in the second half of that fight against Floyd, where there was an opening to go for it, to put on that pressure down the stretch and try to steal a decision there. And I think Oscar started getting hit too cleanly and started to realize, like, I try too hard here, I'm getting knocked out. And that's my opinion, but I think it's right. Whatever. What do you got? What do you got here, Chin? What else you got, Chin? I still remember where I was at for DLH versus Floyd, but for much different reasons. Were you incarcerated, Chinchilla, or were you with somebody's wife? What are we talking about here? All right. Antonio Monzo, Bernardo and Abner and Brian, what a legendary crew. Thank you. Look, I have to say this. Now, Moro Ranallo, friends with the guy, admire the guy, care for the guy, love the guy, love calling fights next to Mo. And Mo had to miss this card, and this was a temporary replacement. And we love Mo. We all want him back. I love that guy. Text him all the time. He brings energy to it that just raises everything. To have night one chemistry like Bernardo had with Abner and I, to where I really feel like we did the best we could have done. I thought we'd had a really great show from the standpoint of playing off of each other and all of that. I got to give Bernardo a lot of credit. He was a great point guard on Saturday night. And sometimes those skills, you can't see them watching the broadcast, but you can feel them when you're a part of the broadcast. And, that was a big opportunity for him too in his great career, and certainly for me. And I loved it because it's kind of full circle. The first time I worked on a fight broadcast in 2015, ESPN Friday Night Fights in Biloxi, Mississippi, Sergio Mora versus A.B. Hahn in the main event, replacing the injured or the arrested Jermaine Taylor. That was me filling in for Bernardo at that point as the sideline reporter. So at the Beau Rivage. So to come literally 10 years later in my biggest show, sitting next to him, had a great time. Great night of the fights. Really was exciting. Really, really was. Bernardo might be a future PBC lead commentator. I don't know about that, but I will say this though about Bernardo. He's floated through the years from sideline reporter, studio host, right? He can do different things. He's done play-by-play in the past, but I think he's doing his best work ever right now at play-by-play. And same thing with Abner. Look, Abner, there was a long adjustment period where I don't think everyone loved him when he initially made that switch. He's always a good media guy, always a good interview, such a gentleman and polite. But I feel like in the last year and a half, Abner has really raised his game and is figuring out how to better present what he has, which is great experience, great knowledge of this game. So there we go. All right, let's get into these questions of yours. Okay. Appreciate already the love from Sandy. Appreciate any super chat that comes in. Thank you. But whatever you want to talk about, let's friggin' do it. All right. I mean, no inside the box this week, so I wasn't able to hit you up with it, but what murders, right?
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
He made the biggest fights we ever saw. What about those journalists that he removed their hand? What? Yeah. Okay. There we go. All right, let's get into it right here. This is Maximiliano Martinez. Salute you with the right hand, sir. Thank you for your support of this podcast. BC, did you see Yoel Romero? What the hell was this story? Yoel Romero got attacked with a samurai sword by a fellow BKFC fighter. That fighter was cut from the promotion. I'm sure we're going to have legal retribution. Yeah, I read the headline, didn't really dive too deep into it, but what the hell is going on, Poison, right? You know what I mean? Skinny pop. That's a wild story. Only in MMA or by proxy bare knuckle boxing, which is basically like more related to MMA than regular boxing. But I actually like the signing for Yoel Romero to the BKFC, even though he's basically like my grandfather's age. He was the face of Mike Perry's dirty boxing, and this is like he's still quick enough and can bang. But this story, I mean, this is some Ugath Urbina type shit, right? Some people know what I'm talking about right there. Thank you for your support. Brody Moret, I miss Al Bernstein. Yeah, I love me some Al Bernstein. He's still doing good work. He's taken a lot of different jobs I've been seeing lately, but most specifically, he calls fights on DAZN for Salida Promotions with my old colleague, Raul Marquez, and one of the brightest people in boxing today, the up-and-comers, Corey Erdman on play-by-play. That kid, that dude's coming on. And I've been, a fellow boxing writer with him, seeing him at fights for decades, but I got to work with him on that Callum Walsh UFC card in Dublin. He's great. He lives this. He is great. So shout out to Al Bernstein. Still got it in his mid-70s right there. Have always gotten along with Al. And as I've told him many times while urinating next to him, Al was a monster part of my boxing youth education. Barry Tompkins, Al Bernstein. Those were my guys. There it is. Let's hear from Steven. Would we really be angry if Pac popped dirty at this stage? Let the old man drink those shakes. Yeah, I wouldn't be angry. I expect it. I assume it. I kind of assume for decades for all the big stars that have money. That's just me talking, but let's wake up, okay? 1998 was fun. A lot of home runs were hit, but eventually we all woke up, right? Yeah, there it is. Antonio Monzo. I miss the real Jermaine Taylor, the prime Jermaine Taylor, the Jermaine Taylor that went in there and beat Bernard Hopkins twice, but really that first fight, because the second fight was weird. They both sort of left a little bit on the table and just kind of played chess with each other. But that first fight, in which Taylor comes out, wins the first 6 rounds, and then Bernard Hopkins rallies, nearly wins the last 6 rounds. Great all-time middleweight fight. The first 4-belt undisputed middleweight championship. The first 4-belt undisputed championship in the 4-belt era. That fight right there. But yes, prime Jermaine Taylor, the same guy that fought to an all-action amazing draw with Winky Wright in Memphis. The same guy who it didn't last that long at the top, right? He got knocked out by Kelly Pavlik in an all-time great fight, lost the rematch by decision, still lingered for a bit, relevant, right? Getting into the Super 6 tournament, getting knocked out by Carl Froch. But once it lost him, and once he lost himself, and then somehow he was still viable as like a secondary champion, but had full-time crazy eyes and was scary and was getting arrested and was attacking family members. Yeah, that was tough to see that. That was tough to see that. But prime Jermaine Taylor was just a come forward, honest boxer puncher. He was easy to cheer for. I really liked him. I know he had some issues with, like, him and Emmanuel Stewart just didn't work out as a fighter trainer. But yeah, shout out to that guy. Let's hear from Nick V 89. Hey BC, how about the D-Rod Holland fight? Yeah, that was fun. It was fun to see. You know what? It's weird. It's like, it can obviously be hard to bet on UFC in general because there's so many ways to lose fights, blah, blah, blah. And it certainly can be hard if you're only following trend. Well, this guy's lost 2 of his last 3. He's fighting this guy that's more red hot. So obviously Holland's going to win, right? But it is weird when certain fighters really find that urgency. It's the equivalent in contract sports, meaning pro team sports like baseball and the NBA, where you can have contract years where you're like, oh shit, I got to bring my averages up. I got to not be injured and go for it this year. So then I can make that money for the next 3 to 4. It's we have those in fighting. It's just sometimes you don't know when they're going to come. This looked like a Daniel Rodriguez who was like, oh shit, I might get cut. I'm 38, but yet I'm also a fun action fighter. If I could just get this win, man, I might get 3 more paydays. Sometimes that's what happens. And he come out there and he fought like that. And it was a fun fight. It was fun to see. Big fan of that one. That was one of the high spots, I thought, for me on Saturday night. Surprising result, of course, but that's what the new cowboy Kevin Holland does. That's what happens, right? All right. All right, what do we got here, Brody? BC, you think Tony Ferguson and Sebastian Fundora will be classmates at Harvard? Also, tell us about the Fundora fighter meeting. Yeah, so by the way, this story not getting the attention it deserves, that at 27, as a champion, just beat Tim Tszyu for the second time and looked like a killer in there. Sebastian Fundora got accepted to Harvard on like a 6-year engineering plan. Like, holy crap. And didn't even like break the news in any type of like press conference or press release way, just sort of put a Harvard sweatshirt on at one of the press days and just casually drop that in there. That's how he lives his life. So the thing I wanted to say about the fighter meeting was he's not always the best interview because he's such a pure, innocent, nice guy. If anybody watched that PBC Gloves Off special that Prime did leading into this fight, they went to his house, his family compound there with the farm and the boxing is our life. Like, that's what they do. They box 24/7. He's in sick shape all the damn time. So you typically get this, like, not a country boy, but this, like, salt of the earth type of, like, we work hard and, I respect my opponent. I loved that as we got closer to this fight, the real Fundora, the competitor, the backbone started to show, because he was sick of people straight up asking him. And I asked him in the fighter meetings, and his response, you could see it in his face that, like, oh, I didn't mean it. I touched a nerve right there. He was sick of people saying, well, wasn't Tszyu lining you up with right hands until you elbowed him in the head and cut him open? Like, what we what we missed in assuming that the fight would have stayed that way is the intangibles that Fundora brings in. And those intangibles we thought were just purely physical. The gas tank's through the roof. The willingness to brawl is through the roof. The chin, all of that stuff, the motor. Now you got IQ, but specifically what you're talking, and that's why it's becoming scary. He's scary now for the 154 division because he's fighting smart. He's fighting upright. He's sitting down on that left hand and he's accurate with it. And he, all that stuff. But in the fighter meeting, we saw like a spicy Fundora that we never see on the mic. You saw a little when he went back and forth at the undercard press conference with Zoo, but he started speaking in third person and he's like, no, Sebastian Fundora is going to win this fight. And we're all just like, whoa, okay, all right. But he did it still endearingly, but he just kept going with it. Finally, somebody, I think Marco Ortega, our statistician, spoke up and was like, what's going on here? And he's like, and Sebastian started laughing and was like, yeah, I think I've been watching a little bit too much WWE lately. But I really think he was like trying to remind people that he won that fight, that he endured through hell, just like Zoo. The whole narrative is about Zoo. And, I got to give him credit, not only for his performance, but I liked seeing that. I like seeing this humble guy who's not going to talk trash, not going to unnecessarily get into this stuff, was also like, put a little respect back on my name. So he was like a little, I won't say dismissive, but very endearingly edgy in like a nice way where you could tell it was eating at him. I didn't expect the third person. It was wild. There we go. All right, let's keep the fun going. Brody also asking my question after Saturday. Great question. By the way, how does Brody get off being Canadian? We just found this out. He's an Ontarian, I believe. My question after Saturday is, how hard does Brian Mendoza hit to KO Fundora? Like, dude, that's what's crazy about this. That was a brutal knockout. And I know a lot of people are, actually, I saw Chris Mannix give this here on his podcast with Sergio Moore, which I listened to. Those guys are great. And I'm not bagging on Chris. I'm just disagreeing with him here. But when he said, like, when they were both sort of saying, how mismanaged has Zoo been in the last year? And I mean, you could certainly argue that by the results. Should he have gone into a title fight against Murtazaliev after the physical ruin of that first Fundora fight, or should he have scheduled that immediate comeback against Virgil Ortiz Jr. on that first Turkey card until that cut didn't heal enough? The same questions were being asked of, why would his team ever agree last minute when Keith Thurman pulled out to fight Fundora? The thing I want to counter with is at that point, we didn't think Fundora was all that, dude. He was on that undercard. He had been knocked and sent to hell, knocked out against Mendoza the last fight. And he's taken that fight on 2 weeks notice. So I think for Zoo, I have no problem with the way he handled that decision. I have more of a problem with the way his team mishandled his cut and then allowed him to keep fighting through that when they could have made that a no contest, knowing that was compromising him. But it was a back and forth fight. They ultimately stayed in there. You got to take the results. They did. They took the results against Murtazaliev. They took the results here too. So now 3 losses in 4 fights. But you're right. Brian Mendoza hits hard. That was an absolutely perfect shot that crumbled and broke Fundora. But the fact that Fundora has bounced back like it never happened, and he's still taking big shots when he needs to, dude, there's something special about Fundora. And he was an oddity for a while. He's going to be scary if he's really putting this together. He's going to be scary, especially now that he knows he can box behind that jab. The shots he got hit with against Zoo, some of it still is he's not, fully a mover, or, I mean, he stays on the center line. He's there to fight you. But as long as he's standing upright, it's one thing. And then he was also getting hit by a lot of home run Hail Mary punches from Zoo, while also countering and landing big. I mean, that 7th round, which left Zoo concussed walking back to the corner. I could see it in his eyes as he was walking back. He was not there. That was Zoo pouring out what he had left. And Fundora, to his credit, was able to match him violence for violence throughout that. Chinchilla hit me back here with, is Zoo done? So we did put out that video. And he spoke very softly in that video, and the eyes are swollen. And by the way, whether he fights again or not, whether you think he's a bust or not, whether you love him or you don't, the way he carries himself, from his warrior spirit to his humble gentleman style, it's a breath of fresh air in this sport. The fact that he, after getting stopped, after asking out in a hellacious fight there in that rematch with Fundora, the fact that he was willing to be interviewed and that he completely put Fundora over. It's a testament to who he is. So is the fact that he comes out and puts out a video in the last 24 hours. And in the video, he says that he still marches on. This is what I do. I get up, I dust myself off, I get back there. The conviction, though, left some people, or maybe the lack of conviction left some people going like, is he speaking too early while he's still wounded in the moment? I don't know. I think the ability's still there. Will there be a price to pay for him getting beat up in 3 of the last 4 fights? Yes. And he may never, I was going to say he may never get to his peak. I don't mean he's probably never going to get to whatever that peak was possible, but he may not have gotten there anyway. That's the thing. I definitely was higher on him through his run at 154 than others maybe were. I never was under the illusion that he's the second coming of his dad, but a little bit different, tough as balls. And as a mid-range boxer puncher, he can get dudes out of there. He's a problem. And even I thought if he was outgunned against truly elite 154s, I felt like he was going to be able to fight his way in there and be competitive and give himself a shot. The one thing I would say here, it sounds like he's not done. He hasn't found his fill. He's not done yet. They do for everything I just said about their decision to fight Fundora when they did in the first fight. They do have to be safer in general. And I don't mean let's schedule 3 to 4 soft comeback fights, but I mean like let's be smart in how we do it. And I'd also like to see him get a new corner. And I don't think, although I threw it out there that one time that maybe his dad training him is the best move. His dad is intense and insane, and they're hot and cold. But Uncle Ivan there, whatever the guy's name is, his who married his dad's sister, it was uncle, his trainer. It doesn't seem to be fully working here. I wonder if this is the time for him to look at which potentially even celebrity trainer fits me perfectly, can motivate me in a new way, and most importantly, can really work on. Look, Derek James is a little I don't want to say overrated, but overexploited lately. Too many big name fighters reaching for him. And inevitably, when you have success with a bunch of fighters and then suddenly everyone's calling you and you can't change those guys or resurrect them like you did other guys because everybody's different, then people are suddenly like, oh, he's not that great. Derek James is a great trainer. And I think particularly great defensively and how to work that into offense when he has the willing and right students. Something like that. I think that would be the change you're going to have to do. It's also a gamble to keep going, because of these beatdowns, these 3 losses in 4 fights. But if he still feels like there's something to be won here, another title, another big win, something that's going to scratch that itch for him, even with the physical and mental risk, it's there. I think they should do it a little bit smarter. That's what I think right there. And 12-3s, it's easy to say now, but also you might be right. I don't know. I don't know what would happen. If he fought Virgil Ortiz coming off of that Fundora craziness, the first fight, maybe that was the perfect wrong time. You just never know, man. It's the thing about fighters. Like every time you think you don't, in terms of if they're motivated compared to regular. I brought this up. So we have these fighter meetings, no matter what channel you work for as an announcer. You have, I keep saying fighter meetings. I meant production meeting. You have fighter meetings. Normally you used to do those in person until COVID. Now they tend to schedule them over Zoom. Some people think fighter meetings are a waste of time. I think they're very valuable, but very valuable when done in person, because then you can really read their dynamics, their body language, their reaction to questions. You can see how they interact with their team around them, all that. We also, the night before every card, have a big production meeting where you go over everything. Everybody's present. And in those, we really start to look at the narratives, build potential narratives of what if this happens? What are we thinking? How do you guys think this fight might go? Blah, blah, blah. I tend to back the underdog or try to give an argument of a chance for the other side. Maybe that's just naturally the way I'm wired. Maybe from a storytelling standpoint, I'm always looking to sell the B side's chances just as much as the A side. But I was the one that was arguing to everybody going, hey guys, a really good Manny Pacquiao performance here is possible if you listen to everything he says and you believe it. You don't have to believe it. But if you believe that having 3 massages a day heading into the Ugas fight when he was obviously undertrained and distracted by politics, you might not get the best version of him. You didn't get it. You know what I mean? The same thing about not training for an exhibition against a 160-pound kickboxer last year. Not going to get the most optimal version of him. But the whole point was I kind of got this feeling like this is the time for Manny to show us everything he has left, that they see a financial opening here, that if he wins this title, maybe they can get Floyd and maybe this can be a great way to close the career. I was right in that regard. But my point is, you do never know. You never know. Is this the fight that somebody is going to have that D-Rod level of urgency to keep their job? Or is this the fight where they're fighting with their wife and there's a lawsuit against them and blah, blah, blah? I mean, everyone's different. And somebody like Floyd Mayweather was able to just press pause on the outside of his life, put on those blinders and be great as if nothing's going on in the middle of the ring. That's one side of it. Other people are human in other areas and it's going to affect them, but you just never know. Even if somebody looks great on a scale, even if someone tells you they have the best training camp ever, you just never know on that night. We always think of it as like how older fighters can turn old overnight, or, even look at Poirier. It's like some of those fights of the last 5, he didn't look like $1 million. He kind of looked like his age. And then he comes back the next one, maybe super motivated and knocks BSD out, right? You just never know. We think of it more as like a physical thing, but I think a lot of times it is a mental thing. How bad do they want it in that moment for whatever reason? I don't know how we got into this topic, but I'm getting out of it. Thank you for being here. All right. Steven, did Barrios really lose when he's coming home to Fig's sister? So even though they are the parents of that beautiful young child, I didn't get the feeling like I don't want to speak. I'm not trying to, but I didn't get the feeling like they're together, and that's fine. I didn't get that feeling. There you go. Hell of a moral victory in life at one point for him, though. You gotta understand that, okay? You do have to understand it. Whether you want to understand it or not. Luke Thomas doesn't want to talk about MMA power couples, but you got to understand it. Okay. You got to understand it. Yo Mama 69. Wow. That's a heck of a name. Wow. First time tuning in. Keep up the great work, BC. Thank you. Yo Mama. Thank you. Yo, big fan of Yo Mama. To be fair, right? You know what I mean? There we go. There it is. Okay. All right. We do have some super chats coming in. Appreciate you guys. Cosmo Kramer. Thank you. Fundora versus Ortiz right freaking now. Who you got? That's a great fight. That is a great fight. And I did jump the gun because I was so overly impressed watching Fundora get all grown up in front of our eyes. I mean, look at Fundora in the first 3 rounds against Zhu on Saturday. Holy shit, that's a problem for everybody. Because Zhu, even though he almost heroically worked his way back into that fight for little glimpses, dude, he casts this shadow of reach. If he's going to use that reach and length, he covers territory. And now he's cutting off the ring. And now he's hitting you with whatever he wants to. And that jab is so long that, yes, he is now not a problem, a major problem for the big guns at 154. For Bakram Murtazaliev, for, Xander Zayas, who's going to be fighting Saturday in the final top-ranked card in ESPN history for the vacant title that Fundora had to give up to get this Zhu rematch. But I was remiss, and I mentioned that on Morning Combat on Monday when talking to Rafe. I forgot about Boots, who's a different challenge altogether. And I forgot for that moment because he's still not in the title. He's in the title picture. He's not a champion at 154. Virgil Ortiz Jr., until we see him lose. Yeah, that might be the guy. That really might be the guy. Like I even want to see him against Boots. I really want to see that. I really want to see how great Virgil Ortiz really is. And it's not that we haven't seen compromises. He got dropped twice against Bochuk, right? But I still feel like him and Boots, as we speak right now, have a potential just higher ceiling than Fundora. But I reserve the right to change that if Fundora comes out in his next fight, no matter who it is, and fights like those first 3 rounds against Zhu and keeps people away and doesn't lead with his greatest skill, the ability to take punches and brawl back. He used to lead with that. That used to be who he is. But if he is going to preserve himself more and have the ability to start banking 3, 4, 5 rounds just on that jab alone, yes, the opponents are going to make adjustments. They're going to figure out how to get inside for a bit. Then you make them pay with those uppercuts. He is a different fighter. But as we stand right now, who you got in this one? What does that fight look like? It's a war. Ortiz will make him. Ortiz, you have to understand, is I mean, we say two-fisted punchers. That's Ortiz, a threat to get you at the body with either hand at any time, can fight you on the inside, is raising his boxing ability and IQ on the outside. Really made a nice adjustment from 47 to 54 when that horrible stretch for him happened, when he's pulling out of fights and there's undisclosed illnesses that they can't figure out what it is, all that stuff. If he pulls Fundora out of that A game soon enough, then it becomes more of a battle of wills, and I do think I would favor Ortiz. If you told me that's going to be a 12-round fight and 9 of it will be on the inside and they're brawling, I'm going Virgil Ortiz. It really comes down to, can Fundora continue down this path of being not safety first, but being intelligence first, really, because he's a freak. Oscar was a freak. He's a freak. He is a freak, and he's really good. And like, if Fundora didn't have that chin, or didn't have that dog in him, or didn't have that willingness to stand in the fire, I'd say, okay, weird, unique fighter, but come on. He's got it, baby. He's got it. Okay. I mean, I'm your Venus. You know what I mean? There you go. All right. This one is from Cosmo. BC, do you think any current fighters could recreate Jones versus Cormier level hatred? I do have to say this. Paulo Costa, what are we calling him these days? Paulo Borrachina? Paulo, let me shake during the press conferences. Paulo, let me post pictures with Tracy Cortez, bro. What are we doing here? Good stuff, probably. Okay. All right. That the way that man talks about Khamzat after Chimaev allegedly slid into the DMs of Costa's girl and, said, why don't you get together, made some like Clubber Lang at Rocky Balboa type Rocky 3, sentences of like, I'm sure your wife will want to be with a real man, that kind of stuff. That's interesting. Do I have confidence that if Chimaev defeated DDP, could Costa win the type of number one contender fight that would? No, I don't have that confidence. But that's an interesting growing area of hatred. But the Jones Cormier hatred is next level, and that's why it was so good. It was even realer and deeper than another great hatred battle, which was Rashad Evans and Quentin Jackson, which did 1 million pay-per-view buys for a non-title, of course, fueled by the fantastic advertisement that was The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, he destroyed that door that was made out of fly paper, right? He destroyed that. But like, the Jones Cormier thing wasn't about ex-teammates breaking up like Rashad and John, where at the end of the day, you're like, they really love and respect each other. They're in a season. Okay. They're in a season. This is like competitive professional hate. And it was so weird, right? That like Jones was still the good guy, even though he was acting bad. And DC was the real good guy who was being treated by the public like a villain. And then how those roles changed throughout the rivalry. And I really feel like we were robbed. And a lot of that is probably the 3 years John took off of these two, for a title or not, fighting a trilogy at heavyweight. Because then you would have gotten the full spectrum. We would have had one fight at light heavyweight, one fight with John on drugs. Oh, wait, that was 2 or maybe 3. And then a third at heavyweight. Like, it would have been interesting. But to your point, the only rivalry that's ever been as good or better than this is Conor versus Khabib. And it's probably because that was even nastier than this, because that had those darker elements of Conor bagging on wife, religion, and all that stuff, and just, poking the bear at such deep levels. I mean, it really got gross and nasty, and that was a big part of it. Jones and Cormier somehow didn't get too gross and nasty, but it was what it was. It was real, right? It was real. Can we get that again today? I want to see Ilya Islam heat up as a competitive rivalry that builds into the super fight of our era, but I don't think it gets like that, even with the competitive dislike and disgust. I think this one escalated so perfectly because of that press conference brawl when Dave Schaller tried to hold him down there. Like, it just escalated at the right moment where they both were leaning in a little bit too much to it, and it got real. That, in theory, could bust out at any point. Now, we've also seen, I mentioned Conor Habib might be a little bit better. Conor Nate is below this. Conor Aldo below this, but very memorable in that regard. But a lot of those still felt very, at least from the back and forth, felt very one-sided in favor of Conor in terms of the trash talk. Jones Cormier was always a straight ahead one-on-one battle in that regard. So I hope we get another one, because obviously it's rivalries that make people, that make eras, that take promotions and companies to next levels. So we need those things. You need just a damn, I don't know what the origin is, but I hate you, and we're going to settle this in the damn ring. You need that. I want it. I need it. Okay. Oh, Papa's here. Big Papa, Papa. Yo, aloha. All right. Hope you and Governor Penn are doing well out there. Maybe even Daz. Mahalo to that MFer, right? Canada's Brody Moret says, Manny got to get it back in blood for Ismael Barroso and fight Rolly. Yeah, that's a funny way to do it. Do it for the old guys. I love when Rolly's like, my grandpa? He hits harder than everybody. Oh, that grandpa did hit hard. I'm really starting to talk myself into Manny versus Rolly. And some of that is just my love of Rolly, and I want to see him in a fight like this. But I just think the threat of that big KO punch, which is very legit, with the lack of that technique, and Manny probably being able to jump in and do many things, but you'll be on the edge of your seat the whole time. That's pretty interesting. Interesting-ish. I don't know. Would Rolly become the heel again in that build? He played the heel against Tank, but he's almost gone babyface on us lately, very subtly. He's found God too. Shout out to Rolly. Who saw that coming? This is Musty Biscuits. DDP and Sean Strickland could be nasty, yes, but I think Sean Strickland's time at that level is done. But yes, that had sparks. That had real type of legit sparks in that type of area. I'll give you that. You'll have that from me, okay? I'll give you that. All right. Remix, always getting my back here. All right, this guy, love it. Remix says, going to see Stan. Well, it's been a while, right? In Atlantic City in September. Were you ever a fan? Any good stories about Atlantic City from boxing and or broadcasting? Let's take this in order. I was never a fan of Stained. Do I respect, their radio hits? Yes, but to me, they were one of the, they weren't the same. They're different than Nickelback, but they're one and the same of that era. That was the worst era of rock and roll, of mainstream rock and roll, in my opinion. It was just it just sucked. I mean, that was my era of going out to bars, and everybody had a thin leather jacket on and a Coke problem and jeans, it's like, and this was the soundtrack to their lives. Three Doors Down is in there too, and they kind of rocked, right? Tonic. I mean, like all these bands that were in there, I hate that era. I tried to make the best of it. I like the Creed first and second album, right? No, I like Stained, but people like loved them back then, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? I think once that alternative indie rock movement really started to hit full bloom in the mid 2000s, I had put this era far behind me and wasn't playing in that sandbox anymore. But when they were big, I was still a radio guy, and they were the radio hits that time. Like, all right. It's just, yeah. Atlantic City, it is the land that time forgot. I used to go to Atlantic City a bunch in the prime of the mid to late 80s with a friend whose dad would go there for work. And how 80s was in raising your kids. Like, they'd just give us a couple 20s and be like, go have fun. And we would just go from arcade casino to arcade casino, dodging shady people. But back then it was more of a wonderland. They had that amusement park, the indoor amusement park, the Tivoli Pier at the Trop, which you could spend like 8 hours playing in. And I have many times, or just, parents would be gambling all night, and me and fellow fourth grade friend would just be walking around, the casino like at 2 a.m. and going in and out of arcades. So I saw it back in its prime, and it was seedy but fun. And then, man, have I seen it for the rare but various boxing stops I've made over the years. I remember staying. So I stayed in Trump Plaza as a kid multiple times. And I've always liked that hotel. I stayed in it the last year before it was torn down back in like 2013 when Trump wasn't even affiliated with it anymore. It was the saddest visit to a casino hotel I've just could not believe how. Yeah, and I think it literally closed down like 2 weeks later. That was pretty wild. I covered, maybe the last big fight in AC, the Hopkins Kovalev one in 2014. It was an HBO pay-per-view, and I think it was pay-per-view, or maybe it was maybe it was regular at that point. But like everybody came to that fight, and it felt big. But the city felt very even then unsustainable. Like yeah, they're expanding, they're building new casinos, they're building this mall in the middle of it, but like there's not enough to sustain that, and there still isn't. And I've gone back in recent years for Showbox events, and it's pretty sad. It's pretty barren out there. I mean, I'm sure you take the kids there, in the summer, and you can swim and have a good day and go in the arcade. It still fills that role, but it's gnarly in not good ways. And in some ways, it always has been. It's just had a lot of money in it. I mean, look, it in the peak 80s when WrestleMania 4 and 5 back to back were there at Boardwalk Hall when Trump owned it. What they call it, Trump Plaza. That was big, and that's coming off of the same era when Atlantic City became an absolutely viable competitor to Las Vegas, stealing a lot of big New York fights and having that feel that the big fights are going to be there. I wish I had gone during the boxing run there, but I was in Atlantic City during that era, just not for boxing fights. And there was sort of a magic in the air, even if there was a seedy underbelly feeling at all times. That's also Jersey for you, right? NEW Jers. What you know about that, right? What you know about those murders? I mean, I don't mean to hate on Stained, but I got to tell the truth on this podcast, right? Right? Yo Mama back in BC, it was HBO Championship Boxing. That was back when those great fights didn't have to be put on pay-per-view. It could be a regular Showtime or HBO main event. Missed those days. Back when they had budgets. And they had discernment too. Okay, they had discernment. 12 threes. I'm weak. The leather coats were thin. They were. It was like the trendy thing to get the cheap $49 fake leather jacket at G Fox or some crap, and Marshalls. Yeah, there it is. All right. Let's hear from Run Dem Cheeks, my guy Joe. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome back. Welcome back from the big trip with the lady to London. Welcome back. What you got for me? Struggling with the loss of Ozzy. Yeah, it is tough. It is tough, man. I mean, I rarely get moved when a celebrity passes, especially a celebrity who's like, I guess, past the peak of their art creativity, point. You take it harder then when they're still very active in something that you're very a part of. But in general, obviously it's sad. I was more just happy Ozzy lived that long, to be fair, like shocked and surprised and happy. Like it is pretty wild. Are there any moments in music you lived through and felt were the end of an era? This certainly feels like one. That's interesting. I mean, I don't feel like this is an end of an era. Well, I guess it kind of is. I mean, it is because the contemporaries of Ozzy's time and that time of music, the 70s, to be fair, those guys are dropping one by one, David Crosby, David Bowie, like it's been happening rapidly. So in that regard, in totality, it'll ultimately feel like the end of an era. If you're an Ozzy super fan or a Sabbath super fan, this has to feel, this has to feel like it'll probably feel when Paul McCartney inevitably dies, right? Like they were on that levels of their particular fields and genres. So yes, I can see that, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page go down. You're like, damn. Yet in reality, I've been consuming the same records that they put out, 50 years ago over and over again for the last, 30 years. Not necessarily like they're putting out new stuff, so they're part of everything. But in terms of the end of an era, that is an interesting way to look at it. I don't know if I have a story that matches up with that perfectly. I mean, it would have been something to be alive and consuming popular music in the late 60s and early 70s when the 27 Club was just taking people left and right due to drugs. And it's like Brian Jones, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Hendrix. They got Hendrix too. There's the second tower. You know what I mean? Like, good Lord. Yeah, that felt like that. But an era changing, an end of an era. No, no. There are times, of course, when you can feel a new era upon you in music, sometimes off the success, not the death, but the birth of one great song or album. When I was in 8th grade and Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, and the Nevermind album, yeah, like that was a change. Like all of the monthly gym dances that we had in middle school before that featured hip hop songs, and the entire 8th grade body making a circle as like the two cool kids in the middle. In this case, Joey Edmonds and what was that chick's name? Gina Perez, doing like cool hip hop dances and everybody clapping. And then suddenly Nirvana's around and they're playing Smells Like Teen Spirit 3 times because people won't stop requesting it. And you're like, okay, something just changed. The grunge is here, but not necessarily based on the death, but RIP to all these legends. One by one, they're going. And sometimes you got to ask yourself, like, if I got a chance to see them when they're old, do I do it? Do I just do that? Even if it's going to be disappointing? I'm going through that right now as I'm aggressively consuming 1960s and 70s vinyl and getting into bands I never, knew that I should have before, knew that they were that great. And you're like, damn, that guy's still alive and he's 70 and he's touring. Do I go see Steve Winwood or Dave Mason, or am I going to be disappointed? Maybe I'll just keep listening to the greatest hits. I mean, not that I don't have greatest hits albums. I mean, their greatest hits. You know what I'm saying? Because each album it speaks for itself. It's a place in time. It's a statement. It's an art. All right. You've already heard that rant before. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. What else we got? Michael Carson back in the chat. Welcome. It's Luke versus BC as the co-main. We know. Maybe that was in relation to something else. I don't know. What else you got here? Banned from YouTube. Thank you for coming to this YouTube channel, though. Luke BC versus Brendan Schaub. Oh, maybe you were commenting on this. Yeah. Versus Brendan Schaub on the White House lawn in 2026 would sell so many damned pirated streams. It really would. I mean, what are you going to do? Point joke me to death? You know what I mean? No. Schaub would take both of us. Now, do we get to fight him at the same time? I wonder, is there a strategic way we could go about that to offset the fact that this man is large, experienced, and in shape, and we're washed dads? Probably not. We're probably gonna get handled. But yeah, all right, there you go. There it is. It's what the people need. But actually, I saw Ariel even giving props to Schaub. Schaub has been on a little bit of a run lately with some good takes, mixed in with some questionable lawsuit allegations and all that. What else you got, old Dave? Papa Roach better than Stained. They're all right too. I mean, I got down with POD for a minute. It was a minute. I mean, I was real into System of a Down in this time. I really was. Brody, sadly, a lot of our music heroes are going to start dropping like flies. Yeah, that's how it goes. It's sad. It is sad. But I keep saying, and I mean it. It's more sad when you feel like Kobe dying. I know his basketball career was over, but you're like, he what else could he have contributed to public consciousness and motivation and society, and and his daughters maybe becoming stars and all that. When someone's closer to broadcasting or whatever, when someone's closer to being in that window of contributing still, it's even harder. It's even worse. I mean, death is inevitable. It's not like it's easy to handle, right? All right. Carson's back. Yeah, baby. BC, what would it take for you to get a tribute video like Dustin? Can't have the only video UFC puts out, including BC, be a teardown video of the media. Well, there's been 2 of those, and I've starred in both, so I think I can apply for my SAG card shortly. I don't know what it would. I guess seriously, I'd probably have to die now. Speaking of people dying, in the peak of their artistic prime or what have you. Is this the peak of my broadcasting and journalism career? I guess maybe I'm in my prime right now. Yeah, I guess so. Imagine. So let's say I go tomorrow. Oh, it's tragic. It's very tragic event for my family, for everybody, maybe for all you guys. I don't know, whatever. maybe I get a tribute video like that. Maybe if I go in the Boxing Hall of Fame one day, I don't know, whatever. But that was a really good video, and that felt really good. And I hope they still continue to do that. But I also hope is this mean? I hope they discern it a little bit better. You don't want me to say the names out loud that I'm thinking of, but like some people got videos lately in red carpet walk-offs that you're like, all right, I still like to see it. It doesn't mean you can't reward a company, male or female, for just being an honest, consistent performer. But sometimes when done perfectly, the right fight, with the right fighter, with the right goodbye and the right setting, and this was a beautifully done by UFC, the whole thing, letting him kind of handpick the opponent in Max, allowing it to be BMF, putting it as a pay-per-view main event in his home state. Perfect video. Yeah, like this was great. Let's go, UFC. Let's go. I complain a lot, Luke does too, about how in general they don't know how to honor their greats. And it's not just like if you get into a business disagreement with them like Randy Couture, you're kind of wiped from history. It's not even just that. And even though I know inevitably the goal is to use an aging name with cachet and remaining value to put over your younger ones. And I'm never going to be against that, especially in a really big fight. I'm against, obviously, the Anderson Silva matchmaking down the stretch of kind of like pointless fights against quasi contenders. The Jose Aldo stretch of lately, same thing, even though you find out afterwards that Jose Aldo only wanted to fight the best and would argue and push for that. But still, you're putting him in fights where you're just like, that's not the best use of the name. I would love if they figure out sort of a line of who are like the real legends when they're going out. And those people get not only the video treatment, not only but get the right matchup. It doesn't always have to be about putting over a younger person, but the right matchup. And this was that for Dustin, to be fair, with the history between them, to give them a chance to have that fight feel special. Excuse me for that mid-sentence burp. To feel like that, to feel like it's an event. It's the way that you have a title-ish feeling on a fight without needing a title on it. And they didn't need this BMF. I'm not going to hate them for it. I like the use of the BMF in general. I like the creation of it. I just feel like they've just been kind of tossing it around left and right. All right. John Ray, BC, were you gooning under the table when Brett was on MK? No, I wasn't. I mean, people love that joke and I play into that joke, but you can say he's just a friend. Okay. Good guy though. Real good guy, real good family man. Brett's a real, I don't know if you guys are big Brett fans, but great dude. And I don't throw that out to everybody. Okay. There we go. Mohi. Bro. Hey, bro. Yeah. All right. Hey, BC, what do we as a society seem more forgiving towards celebrity, or why do we as a society feel more forgiving towards celebrities like Mike Tyson or Kobe Bryant, despite serious allegations or past actions, but are quick to cancel others for lesser things? Good question. I think you're going to naturally get leeway when you are super successful at something or super popular. And if you're super popular and super successful at the same time, it's a lot easier to focus on your love of the art rather than the artist's natural human flaws. And some of these human flaws are way bigger than others. And our assault, brother, or our illegal or what have you, right? There's levels to this. You ask a great question when you talk about Tyson, where people are turning on Tank Davis left and right lately, and they probably should. People turn on this person, then you're like, yeah, but Tyson, people will open their front door and let him come in. And it's like, you do have to understand that Tyson is a one of one in terms of being a public celebrity and being unique to this and being the biggest thing, not just in sports, but like in pop culture at his peak in the 80s, and constantly reinventing himself through meltdowns in the ring, one-man tours on Broadway, on weird comedic roles in The Hangover when his brand wasn't necessarily strong, all the way to this comeback fight. There are so many second lives for Tyson. And I think there's a combination of people that feel bad at how obviously used he was by almost everybody in his life, that they don't like forgive, or maybe they do. Maybe it's easier to forgive his setbacks when they see that he came from nothing. They see that he was exploited so many times by Don King, by everybody, right? And yet he still found a way to concoct the second, third, fourth, fifth act through tragedies like losing his daughter in that accident to everything. And yet he can still be maniacal and crazy and quick tempered. But in general, for this like most recent rebirth in the public consciousness, he's become the lovable grandpa / ambassador of the sport. But there's always one guy, for years it was Muhammad Ali, who is that singular ex-boxer who's like the ambassador of the whole game. He's become that in so many ways. So did he do more pretty really bad shit at certain points? Yes, including the rape that he did prison time for, that he still to this day denies, but says I did 58 other things that probably could have gotten me there. That is all true. But I think we also see this really honest personality within that endears itself to people. Where for Kobe, it was, had some very public setbacks, the Colorado thing, and and I never liked him because I was a Celtics fan. But I think he has left behind this spirit, this inspiring, motivational, maniacally driven spirit that people connect with, attract to, and want in some form to mesh with, to merge with, to have it rub off on them that anything's possible if you work hard, that having a killer mindset, the Mamba mentality will, it's not like I'm not surprised though, even with the tragedy of his death, that there's like this hero worship. That kind of caught me off guard. People getting full tattoos on their back of Kobe and stuff like that. And people do at times seem to talk about him almost like a fallen deity or something. But I think some of that is just like, he was unmistakably himself, unapologetically himself. And a lot of that was built towards maximizing himself, trying to literally be the best he can be, the best ever, going for that at every single turn, rushing back from injuries, having the right mindset to, a lot of that people attract to. It also can be where, you just love somebody's art so much that you're just willing to go, okay, for this person, they're human and I get it. We all kind of do that in our own lives in some ways. None of us are perfect. All of us are pieces of shit in some form behind the scenes. It is true. It is true. At the end of the day, we're all human. There's good and bad flowing through us all the time. You got to regulate that, of course. You got to put your efforts in the right areas. But this is just BC waxing poetic on a Wednesday afternoon. Whatever. Let's hear from Rocky Sloan. Welcome to this chat. This is a first time, long time Rocky Sloan. How big of a meltdown do you think Luke is going to have once he finds out that, oh my God, I texted him this today and he sent back exclamation points from his international vacation location. When Luke finds out that Ilya Topuria told the Nelk boys he enjoyed their Benjamin Netanyahu interview. What the hell is happening in this world in 2025? What are we doing here, folks? The damn Nelk boys go from hosting Netanyahu in a podcast and don't, hardball any questions whatsoever to him and just do the, like the last year Rogan and Friends comedy tour podcast circuit of let's welcome in Donald and push him up. You know what I mean? Doing that in this case. And then the next day they're in Topuria's house, Jim, getting knocked out by him in these weird sparring sessions. And then Ilya's like, yeah, I love that Netanyahu talk. That was really good. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. Wild stuff here, guys. Yeah, that was weird. That was all right. There we go. Brody Moret, very active today from Canada here. Probably because he has such good health care. BC, if these guys really want to take over boxing, why are they wasting their time and not just buying all of the promotions? TKO can literally own boxing tomorrow if they just buy all 4 major promotions. So I don't disagree with the premise of what you're saying, because that to me is the antidote for my belief that they have two game plans going out at once, but they can't take over boxing until those game plans merge. And you can only merge if you're signing relevant top-end championship level fighters. So I think, you might be right that maybe Turkey should have, rather than just constantly spending all this money on these big fights, maybe he should have pooled some of that money and bought 1 to 2 of these promoters, like straight up bought their rosters. Like I own them now. You can still run them, but I own them now. That's one way to do it. You can also counter if you're under the belief that Turkey is like way smarter than we even give him credit for in executing this plan. Think about this. Like, he's already made the announcement. They made it on March 5th when they announced the TKO Turkey coming together, that we're going to crush our competition, that in the future, we're not going to work with anybody else. They even teased, they even let it out that we're going to amend the Ali Act. We're going to have our own titles. We are going to be boxing. We will be everything. My criticism is you telegraph that. You telegraph that so hard that you're actually giving all of these promoters a chance to counter you and to join together or build up some type of resistance. Has it looked like the resistance has started? No, it has not. In fact, these people are staying as close as they can to still siphon off what's kind of left coming off of that nipple until the day is over with. Some out of survival, to be fair. I mean, Top Rank's TV deal is up after Saturday. I don't know where they're going next. So it might benefit them to have fighters be on Turkey cards. But from the standpoint of maybe Turkey smarter than we think, what you hear, like Bob Arum, when he originally complained about the handling of Big Baby Anderson and running him into that Bacoli fight too early, was that Turkey was going right to the fighters. There's a reason why he loves to flaunt the, oh, look what fighter just walked in next to me in my room and we're taking this picture. Oh, it's Tom Brady. It's this famous director. It's this influencer, right? There's a lot of clout, posturing in that. But think about what that does when he's looking at boxing and going, oh, I haven't had fights with Abdullah Mason yet. Let's make him a Ring Magazine brand ambassador. So now we're putting a consistent paycheck in this young fighter's pocket. And we're telling them, if you get your promoter to let you fight with us, you're going to make 4 times what you made last time on your last fight. That's really smart. If these guys are suddenly down to 2 fights left on their promotional deal, and like I said earlier, maybe Turkey sits them down and says, what are you going to do? Resign with that guy who's only paying you this much and only giving you this much exposure, or resign with me? I'll pay you this much. Now, they can't do that long term because eventually they got to bring the payments down in boxing if they really want to turn boxing into UFC style and have a third Mansapsani. And on top of that, have Saudi finally figure out how to make money off of this deal. But if this whole plan, this whole couple of years in between until him and Dana go full bore, maybe it's about building all of those relationships. And maybe in some cases, these promoters, maybe some of them are thinking, maybe I'll just keep signing. I'll just keep letting my fighters sign with Turkey, but I'll sign too. And I'll get my, my percentage. And then Turkey will do the matchmaking and promoting, and I'll just sit back. I think some are thinking that too. But I do think we're going to come to a point because maybe they can recruit and draft and get a certain amount of fighters to come over. But a lot of fighters are going to be leery at signing up exclusively with them if they feel like the titles that they're going to give out, which won't be WBC, WBO, all those, if they feel like those titles won't be looked at as legitimate, or if they feel like the roster doesn't have enough names for them to be worth it to fight here. Maybe that's the point where they go, hey, Eddie Hearn, let's buy your stable. You can stay on. You can still be a face. You can still go to these press conferences and talk these fighters up and still sign fighters and bring them into our mix. But we control it all. Maybe that's the reality that we're headed towards. They've obviously got very, not sinister, but very detailed long-term plans on how this is going to go. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah. All right, Jay Allen, my dude, thank you for your support. How bad does current Usyk whoop a prime Tyson? So here's the deal on these mythical matchups, and Usyk makes it hard because he's 6'3", he's southpaw, he can box, he's quicker than most. He also is showing you that he can swim and survive in tough fights where he has to get dirty, and he's always been like that. Look at his cruiserweight championship win over unbeaten Myris Brightus when they unified in the WBSS semifinal round. A split decision over 12 rounds that was a war back and forth. He can do that when he has to. there's a lot of heavyweights historically that he's going to get the one up on, and when you really think about it, and some of that is the advancements of the modern day, from the training to all of that stuff. But some of that too is just that he is this unique Swiss Army knife, like a heavyweight version of Lomachenko. That's all true. He's also figuring out how to be powerful enough. He's also doing a lot of things. I still think he has problems with Lennox Lewis one-on-one, with obviously prime Lennox Lewis. I think even the best heavyweight version of Holyfield is think of the Holyfield that beat Bo in the rematch. Think of that one. Not the Holyfield from after the Tyson fights and then Lennox Lewis fights, not that older version, but that early 90s prime version, from the first and second Bo fight. I think that's an interesting matchup. I think Vitaly Klitschko is a bad matchup for Usyk. I think Usyk beats Vladimir, not Vitaly necessarily. Prime Tyson, though, is interesting. Usyk whoops on most versions of Tyson that there is or ever was. There's no question about that. But if we're going to get into on your best night, if the mythical conversation is going to shift to on your best night, then there's other things like Riddick Bowe. He ends up being a boxing Hall of Famer. I think ultimately he's a borderline pick because his prime was so short and he was completely washed by age 28. That I think he was really good, but it was really good for a short season, and he was kind of hit or miss after that, even though he retires with a very glossy record. But yet his best night ever, the first Evander Holyfield fight, though maybe the only time he went all in a training camp, and they hired Mackie Shillstone and they left no stone unturned. They're like, dude, you gotta stop eating. We gotta get you. The stamina he had that night, the 6'5" size, jab, power, like that guy in a mythical tournament. Literally, I'm putting it up there. He's there. He's freaking there. Oh, by the way, Usyk's gonna have a problem with Ali. Okay, the prime Ali, the mid-60s Ali. Yeah, that too. Okay, he's gonna have a problem with that guy too. But you have to also figure in prime Tyson on his best night. I know the flaws that Tyson had that were inevitable that they were going to turn up. Now, maybe they turned up easier in the Buster Douglas fight because Tyson wasn't training. He was having sex with a ridiculous amount of women and partying. He didn't have leadership anymore on his team or in his corner. And he also fought the best version of Buster Douglas that there ever could have been because his mom just died and it was sort of like, F it. I'm just going to go for it. But the Tyson that beats Spinks, dude, that guy's a problem for every. And when I say a problem, that doesn't mean he beats him, because inevitably there is a formula to beat Tyson, and it's you got to be big, you got to have a power jab, and you got to have the threat of the right hand. And boy, would it help if you got footwork. And Usyk's got all that, plus he's a southpaw. So like, look, but the ferociousness of 1988 Mike Tyson. It's still a chore and an obstacle for you to go rounds with that guy. So you just never know. Usyk could get sparked by that guy. But yes, Usyk would fare very well historically in mythical matchmaking. I mean, we watched him twice take out a 6'9" Tyson Fury and hurt him and nearly get him out of there the first fight. Joe Louis is one you can't count out too. I mean, he's the greatest heavyweight of all time, in my opinion. And I know he was on top for 12 years in an era that didn't always have the best, but the longevity, the complete game, all of that. I'm not going to count that guy out until I saw him in one of these mythical matchups. But yeah, Ali's a problem. I think Vitaly is. I think Lennox is. Depends what you think. A lot of conversations going on here in the chat. In my mind, in my mouth. All right. Yeah. There we go. All right. What do you got, John? Good timing, BC. I'm on lunch drinking a Monster. Wow. Ain't that America, right? And 4 Buffalo Rollers from Cumberland Farms. I'll see you at the Liver Doctor, friend. All right. Thanks, John. Meal of Champions and Black Liver. Damn right it is. All right. You're damn right. You know what? Friday is the 47th birthday, and my liver results have been very good lately. I've been lax this calendar year. Late night snacks are getting me. I eat great all day and then I give in after dinner. But it might be time. Because the thing is, there are great hot dog places in Connecticut. Like great. And maybe everywhere there is. I mean, it's not that hard, right? I mean, like really, like, it's not that hard. But there are like gourmet level ones here. And they got this one in New Britain, Connecticut, if you ever go, called Socrates Hotties. The amount of fixins that they'll put on a dog there is insane. And that's not even the best place to get a dog in New Britain. That would be Capital Lunch downtown. Like, it's been there for 100 years. All right. Sucking on chili dogs. That's what I'm talking about. All right. We don't need a tasty freeze. There we go. All right. Let's jam. Let's get jamming here. Let's jam. Let's go. Yo mama's back. Brian, how funny do you think a Rolly Pacquiao buildup would be? If Rolly commits to playing the heel, and he kind of would have to, although I don't know if he wants to anymore, but if he commits to being a goofy heel and he's willing to like annoy Pacquiao, like Keith Thurman did. Keith Thurman sold the shit out of their fight. The face-to-face that I hosted for Fox, where he made fun of Pacquiao. Like he even like, I'm going to crucify Manny Pacquiao. Like he said some shit right there. If Rolly's willing to try a little bit of that, even though he's gone through some changes in his life and seems to be maturing, it's going to be fun. It's going to be goofy no matter what. It's going to be endearing. And I think the fight is theater. I really do. Weird theater, of course, but I really do. BC, how hard was it for you not to mention anyone's sister on the broadcast during the Joaquin Gonzalez versus Brandon Figueroa fight? Yeah, the fantastic strength coach, the big little sister Elmira. Shout out to the mother of Mario's baby. There we go. Sister. Yeah, there we go. Okay. There it is. Let's not get weird. There it is. Okay. 12 threes. Then you have to have the skills to back that motivation, because motivation without skill is just a setup to become discouraged. Is this one of those Luke Thomas don't follow your dream type things? I don't agree with Luke Thomas on that. All right. There we go. Hey, look who slid in here. Alan W's in the house. Our guy. We appreciate you, Aldo. There you go. Yeah, bro. Fundora might be one of the most interesting boxers. What a paradoxical style and intellectual position. Harvard SEAS is not top tier, but it's not like he's going to Wharton for business. I'm a fan. All right. You probably know a lot more about higher education than I do, Alan W. All right. Thank you very much for that. I think Alan W. is a well put together gentleman here. I'd love to chat with him on this show. Let's see if he comes out of hiding. Even if we got one of those, like, we'll put like a dark, we won't light. It'll be like Brett Okamoto's lighting on MK on Monday, right? So we're not really sure who that is. Then we just need like a voice machine that he can speak through. All right, David Chung. Let's go, Chung. Let's go. Thank you. He says, are Sky Nicholson and Eddie Hearn dating? Does the boxing media gossip about this behind the scenes? They did gossip about this a lot when it kind of seemed like it came out about 6 months ago. Now, look, to be honest, I don't know. I've seen the so-called evidence on Twitter that would aggressively suggest it. Yes. I don't know Eddie's marital status. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of pulling a Luke Thomas when we talk about MMA power couples, but I'm also trying not to not step in any hot water. They look chummy. They look close. They were traveling together a lot. I don't know. I don't really know. All right. But yeah, boxing writers are all dirt holes, and we all live for this type of stuff in some weird way too. That's all right. This is Devin Tuck. He's back. We're a big fan of this guy. Tuck in that mangina, Devin. All right. I know you can feel it. Gone will be Aspinall. Now, that is something I'm actively cheering against. And it's not because I'm a Tom Aspinall super fan. It's just that would oddly validate John Jones's decision-making. And also he'd be like diving back to rematch Gone for the title. But I feel like that would allow John to be like, I was right this whole time. All right. I'll be there on the lawn. All right. We'll see you on the lawn. Right. Like, yeah. Okay. Hey, John, why don't you go away for good? All right. Why don't you just like put the Twitter down, John? Thank you. Thank you, Devin. Old Dave, who's the guest host on Friday? I guess you got to wait and see. Okay. I'm going to commence recruiting later today. I guess you got to wait and see. Maybe it's you, Sandine, or maybe it's Alan W. We'll see. All right. This is Steven. Is it a good idea for Bud Crawford to piss off Canelo by bringing up his dirty tests? I guess it depends on the strategy. You could argue that had Bud just sort of entered this fight, I mean, it wouldn't have been the best thing for marketability to sell the fight, although Bud isn't typically known as a great seller of a fight Maybe except for Errol Spence, because he talked the good game. He talked the good shit in that one. But there's an argument certainly for Bud to be like, let Canelo believe that, this isn't going to be much of a challenge, that this is more of a gimmick fight, and then go in there and shock and surprise him. I just don't think that's how Bud operates. And I do like the way that Bud has at certain press stops put his foot down and stood up and was like, you're in a real fight here. You're in a real fight. So it kind of depends on how you're wired. And I know I bring it up a lot and it's easy to clown me. I probably deserve it. But, I've spent my whole life until this past year on a basketball court in some form of competitive situations. Not overly high levels, but I've just lingered. I've just stayed in it forever. And, you learn how to be a cockroach and survive in games where the skill is over your head. You learn how to play mental warfare. And maybe there's something in Canelo or in Bud, who seems like he has that bully backbone when he needs it, who is sensing some weakness. I mean, look at the mental warfare that Ali did to Liston ahead of the first fight, right? That McGregor did to both Aldo and Eddie Alvarez to get him off of their game. Maybe there's a part of Bud who revels in this role. I'm one of those psychopaths on the basketball court that I have to create, a fake argument on a foul call that really isn't there to piss somebody off, to then motivate me to play so good that I'm going to show them. All right. I'm going to show them. All right. That's some Michael Jordan making shit up in your head shit sometimes, but you got to find a way to relight that match. All right. To reactivate that stuff. So I look at that more as, not only does Bud want to put doubt in Canelo's head that this is going to be tougher than he thinks, but maybe there's part of him that can talk Canelo out of being his most confident, best self. And maybe he believes that's the way to overwhelm or overtake him. I don't know. I will say I'm really intrigued by the style contrast and the size contrast and all that. I am really intrigued by this fight. I really want to see what the presentation is in that stadium. I want to see everything that we have the chance to see historically here, whether Bud can do this. I'm still leaning Canelo at this moment. I'm still thinking that as great as Bud is, Canelo's not over that hill. And I also think Canelo there were the underwhelming performances when he had that wrist injury, right? Like the John Ryder fight, the Triple G trilogy, the Bivol loss. I think he probably loses that Bivol fight, healthy or not, but that's just the point of what I'm saying. And then he comes back and shows you who he is again. But then lately, he doesn't seem to be overly motivated. He didn't want to chase down William School. He was just sort of like, yeah, let's see. I'll probably win this. I think that gets reactivated because he knows this is a real fight. So anyone that is like, and I do this too, but when you're like, well, yeah, but the last 2 or 3, he looked like this. So that means he's going to look like this. That could have been him kind of coasting at 75% and knowing that, and knowing I can still get there to 100, but I got to pick the right moments to do that. This is the right moment, not just because this man Crawford will be more skilled than anyone he's fought in a while, not named Bivol, but that he doesn't want to be a meme. He doesn't want to lose to the small. He doesn't want to make history the wrong way. I'm talking about Big Red here. All right. Yeah. All right. I got to make dinner for these kids. Let's get on speed round here. Let's continue, but let's get to it. Appreciate all of you, by the way, being here, listening to me talk in circles about stuff you probably already hear about. All right. Probably already heard about it. Key Pop, what do you got, bro? Max still being BMF champ. Do you think we get UFC Hawaii? I mean, what do they always say? That the arena's the problem? Can they not, or they don't want to do stadium outdoor ones, so you can't do like the Aloha Bowl if that stadium's even still around. I'm thinking of like 1995 Pro Bowl or something. And what did they say? The other arena, the one that Bellator worked, is probably not big enough for the production and travel costs that go into that. I get that. It would be nice if Max was like in his prime and a champion who's on, like, if it was going to happen, he should have done it after the second Aldo fight. That's my point. It's like, oh my God, this guy's here. He took the long road to the title. He just knocked out Jose Aldo twice in a row. All right, let's do it. Maybe we'll take a hit financially, but we'll cross off another area of the world we've never been. And we're going to ignite this fan base, which loves MMA even deeper. Now it doesn't seem like they're going to do it unless Hawaii secedes And then their new their new president pays the UFC a Baku, Azerbaijan level government site fee to come. Because they're with the United States and they're not going to get they're not going there unless the city of Honolulu is taking tax money and, paying them an obscene amount to offset what they're going to lose running a smaller arena. That's how it works. And if you're going to do max, it's got to be a pay-per-view. So now you got even more issues. It sucks. I'd like to see this be the type of thing where they just swallow the dollar a little and go, let's still do it because it's the right thing to do. They do the right thing for business. They're very successful at that. It's working. Doesn't mean that always fixes goodwill. Doesn't mean that aren't times when you need to, but you know what? They got a lot of debt to pay off. And Ari is, he got a plan, it seems. So F your feelings, Hawaiians. That's what they're saying. I'm not saying that, I like Hawaiians. I was a big Dog the Bounty Hunter fan until he said the N-word, right? Hey, Yo Mama's back. What's the ceiling for Xander Zayas? Him versus Fundora in the future. That would be a very good unification fight. And think about like this. So Xander Zayas is fighting for the title that Fundora vacated. It's not that Fundora wasn't willing to take the mandatory against Zayas. He was, but the Zoo fight came calling. It's a bigger fight. You're going to be on the Pacquiao card. He gave up the belt to do that. That's a big win on his resume now. It doesn't mean that they still can't unify and do this. And I think the fact that this is the last Top Rank card Saturday, and look, do I think Top Rank can bounce back? Yes, they've done it before. They went to True TV for that short window when they needed to, back when PBC and Al Heyman was doing time buys everywhere. So they're historic. They'll linger. They'll figure it out. But I don't think they have anywhere to go right away. So that's why you're going to see Brian Norman Jr. on a turkey card in Riyadh this fall. Maybe that situation opens the door. If Zayas wins the title on Saturday, maybe that opens the door for this to be a PBC and Top Rank joint fight, on the PBC's Prime network later this year. Maybe I'm just spitballing, but yeah, I think that would be a very good fight. And I think he's, Zayas is very good, has a bright future, but he's less dangerous than a Virgil Ortiz than some of these other guys. So I wonder if we do get that. That's good matchmaking in a lot of ways. Alan W. Trump has the business sense of Eric Bischoff, WCW. Well, there you go. All right. I don't know where that came from, but thank you very much. I mean, yeah, I guess historically he's had some. Yeah, you got it. Also, Alan W., great supporter of this podcast. Ozzy was 76. He lived a great life. Don't be sad. Yeah, and I don't mean to be heartless when I say that. But when somebody's like, oh, my grandma died, I'm like, man, I'm really sorry. Like, I am. And then when they're like, yeah, she was 93. I'm like, dude, it's a victory. Like, hell yeah, 93. That's what I'm talking about, I mean, it's not going to fix your broken heart in the meantime. I'm not trying to be soulless, but I do, you can see now. I mean, I'm only 47 next week, and I can see where a couple bad health steps for being ignorant could lead me down some dark roads if I'm not careful moving forward. Sometimes it's not easy staying alive. All right. So shout out to those that have maybe not gone the distance, but gone pretty far. I used to always assume I'd live to about 78 or 82 at max. But the better I'm taking care of myself. I woke up one day on vacation last year when we vacated briefly in Quebec, and I was in the pool and I was just like, why can't I live to 100? Right? Everyone's always like, yeah, but I don't want to be there at the end because I'll be really old and yeah, you probably will be really old and hurting and whatever. But what if I'm like, seeing my great grandkids? What if I'm seeing, Frank Mir's daughter MMA against Brock Lesnar's daughter? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, let's go. My new goal. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I'm going for $100. All right. See if I get there. Just follow along with me. All right, there you go. There it is. Jay Allen's back, the new father, my guy. Thank you, sir. Who is the overrated fighter? Who is the overrated fighter GOAT? Conor, Tyson, or others? Casual fans think these guys were long reigning. Okay, I see the point you're making. We're long reigning champs with wins over all the best of their time. So you bring up a good point. This idea that certain people who you have a team championship level, which allowed them to take off fame wise. And these two are, arguably the two most famous in their respective sports, even right now, all time. Arguably, I mean, not big. Okay, Tyson's not bigger than Ali. That's maybe the one person he's not bigger than. But when they don't hold it together at their prime for as long as other legends, people can misrepresent history. I see people all the time. It comes up in conversation more than you would think, where I'm talking to people and they're like, Tyson's the greatest heavyweight of all time, right? And I'm like, dude, he's a borderline Hall of Famer, like borderline, all right? Like, and people, and I even feel like that, even though Floyd Mayweather is great, and it might even be a 10th or 11th best all time. It depends on a few different things, but like is obviously an all time great because he projected himself as TBE the best ever and always said he was the best ever, which was such a smart marketing move. And then because people watched him beat out his era and had a remarkable career, I also see a lot of people like kind of overrating that and being like, well, he's obviously the best ever, right? The pound for pound best ever. And it's like, well, I mean, it's not that there isn't an argument you can make, but no, he's not. He's clearly not. So I get what you're offering. I would say it's probably Tyson that ends up being the most overrated, because even for people that lived through his dominance, but maybe didn't follow the career year by year and see the decline and maybe saw the comeback when he comes back and he's out of jail and he's back on pay-per-view and winning for a while, but then it all falls apart again. Probably Tyson. I mean, Conor had less lingering with bad performance. Well, I mean, he's having bad performances in life, but like the difference would be like the Tyson after the Holyfield bite fight was like, he's just going to reappear and give you 2 meltdowns a year. He's going to try to break Franz Bolto's arm, and this other dude he's going to fight, needs a backiotomy. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on. It would be like if Conor kept fighting, but kept losing and was basically reduced to the journeyman level, but still headlining pay-per-views. So I actually hold Conor in higher regard. I actually think it's the opposite. I actually think because he punted away the second half of his prime and because he has become such a caricature / decrepit individual, that makes people underrate how good he actually was at his very peak. If that answers the question. Does it? I don't know. All right. I don't know. Mr. Tiddlewinks, Conor not coming back is actually good for his legacy. Yeah, no, to your point, and it's not like he's not coming off of 2 straight losses. He is, and and the win in between against Cowboy in 40-something seconds. I mean, in hindsight, how great of a win is that? No, it's not. But you're right. Even though it's back-to-back stoppage losses to Poirier, but won by injury, and yes, even though he did lose to Khabib, fair and square, although he did win a round from Khabib, which is rare. The fact that we don't have a littered resume of meltdowns and tapping out right when things get hard, which was a thing that followed him at times after 196, but I think he redeemed that with the way he fought in the rematch at 202. He's certainly putting a stain on his personal legacy, but fighter wise, when you don't get, it's the Nirvana Kurt Cobain thing. I'm sorry. When you don't give people a decline or a stale stretch, and the only thing they have to go back when they put your record on or call up UFC Fight Pass are the performances. And holy shit, that guy had a run. Damn. All right. Alan Dub, where's Reggie? You glass B. Reggie's not here at the moment. He is so Reggie is, when I say Reggie's addicted to his toy, the stick, those sticks. So imagine a long stick, and then off of the stick there's a long string, and then the string has feathers and a mouse attached that beeps all the time. We've had toys like that for years, right? For the animals. For some reason, Reggie has decided that this is the crack cocaine of toys now. And his new MO is to sit by the toy 24 hours a day and scream at whoever's walking by to begin the method of playing with him. But, Reggie's frustrating. What he ultimately wants to do is grab the toy, put it in his mouth, and then try to yank it out of your hand so he can take it over to in his corner and like beat it up. But then when that's done, he's like, yo, I'm ready to play again. And you've already gone on with your life, you know? So I'm going to bet you right now that Reggie's sitting by the Reggie stick. It's his stick. All right. The guy's got a stick, you know, the guy's the best and the worst, but he's also the best, you know, that's the thing. Oh, you should have saw how excited he was when I came home from Vegas, dude. Was sleeping under my Adam's apple within a half hour. That guy, he's the best. Yeah, that was a great question, Jay. That's it. Let's see what else we got here. All right. Alan Dub's back at it. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Rolly to make fun of Roach's Parkinson and call pack and egg roll. Oh, wow. The old Rolly, the Rolly from the first tank fight would have been interesting in that. I don't know. I don't know if he'll play that role this time, but there are ways he can get gnarly with this and it would be weird and interesting and lead to, I mean, if he had some, you ever get that inner itch on the inside of your nostril and then your wife accuses you of picking your nose for 4 days, but you're like, yo, I got an itch right here, not cocaine. If he had some Ricardo Mayorga in him, he'd figure out how to do this. Reg, is that you? All right. Back to life, back to reality. All right, Alan Dubs, what happens to the BCX Force Night gathering? Yeah, so I never followed through with that. But this dude said, that's apparently in this chat, he said he could coordinate a way for 100 of us. There's only 250. Oh, wait, that's a different thing. The 100 of us could get together in the same map and all drop out of the plane at the same time. And what? I mean, you know, he's like, yo, I'll stream it. We'll do this. We'll do that. And I'm like, yo, I don't know. It seemed a little overwhelming. But is this reality? We can play on that level. We can hang out like that. Do we have to wear headgear and talk trash to each other? I don't know how. See, it seems a little overwhelming to me. All right. But I do get down on a daily basis with that stuff right now. Right now, I'm living that. So I got sick of dominating on zero build, on no build zero rank there. But so I went back up into rankings and I had a good run. But, once you hit that plateau and suddenly, you can only get eliminated in those matchups, you're like, man, I miss it. So after like a week of playing ranked, I went back down to the minors and I went back to back victor. I won 3 times in 4 turns. Okay. It is incredible how when you play in the big leagues, you really have to keep that defense sharp at all times when, you can go back down to unranked and not play defense at all and just, yeah, there you go. Anybody still with me? I don't know. Okay. I don't know what to say on that, Alan. If it could be presented to me as a finished product and all I have to do is join, we can make this happen. Alan also saying, I guess eating bats won't make me immortal. No, it definitely won't. But legendary moment-ish for Ozzy. I almost accidentally watched the G.G. Allen documentary last night. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to go through this. Because, the night that he died and did that concert naked and then walked back to his apartment and smoked crack until he died. And like they filmed that whole thing. It's pretty depressing. Run them cheeks. You talk a lot about MMA power couples. Yeah, I do, Joe. That's my thing, right? What would be your top 3 power couples in music? Do Ozzy and Sharon make the list? Well, what's interesting is I'm a knee-jerk reaction to want to say that even though she had a big hand, managing her husband and was so close to music, she wasn't an artist. So I'm like, should the power couples in music be more couples that both contributed either to the same band or to like a Jay-Z Beyonce type thing where you're like, holy crap, that's an insane power couple in that regard. If we're going more on they both had to play, then we certainly have those two in their genres of music. Has there ever been a power couple who are separate? Well, then I guess you had something like a Susan Tedeschi and what's his name? Derek Trucks. And then they ended up getting married and then they ended up forming a band together, which is a pretty damn awesome band. But I'm going to go with, Tiddlywinks is right. Tiddlywinks nailed it. For true power couple here, both in their prime at that time, Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston. Yeah, that was pretty damn big. All right. That's got to be up there. All right. Oh, they're coming in hot right now. Captain and Tennille, you're damn right. Okay. That's what it is too. All right. Who else we got here from J Fish 500? John and Yoko, Ike and Tina. You know, Ike and Tina would have to be there too because they performed together. That was the act. That's who you're coming to see. So Sonny and Cher, you got to include them. Ike and Tina. Do we go Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks? Although maybe their breakup fueled even better music there. You can throw that out there, but I like the Whitney and Bobby. I mean, you can't escape the you certainly can't escape the Beyonce Jay-Z power there. There's almost nothing like it. The Boston Patty Scalfia. No. Yeah, you're right, Sandine. Celine Dion in that dirt hole that managed her and started grooming her and was like, hey, fight for the 115 title. I'll train you. You know, all right, here we go. Zach likes Rihanna and ASAP Rocky. Yeah. I mean, I get okay, but if we're not talking about the contributions on that level, then what do we got here? Ozzy and Sharon, yes. And especially because of that reality TV run where she became a star on her own and went on to, be reality show master, jumping around for different ones. That's when you're going to start to include John and Yoko on an extremely high level. Yes. Sandine, Jessica Simpson, and Nick Lachey from 98 Degrees. Yeah, until they blew up their marriage in that reality show. But yeah, I'm with you on that. How about John Mayer and every hot chick ever? How about that? All right, it's like a Derek Jeter-like run. I don't know if I'm going to be there with you on Mariah and Nick Cannon, and also J-Lo and Diddy Lazy Bed. That for a while, that was pretty damn powerful, but that was very short-lived, rightfully so. Okay. All right. BC and LT, heck of a power couple. There it is. Great questions today, folks. But every good thing, thank you, has to come to an end. And I gotta cook that meat pie for these boys. All right. Let's see if Dad can pull this off. Okay. What do you got here? Joel Bravo, or maybe Joel. You never know. Did you see Eddie Hearn say Nakatani ducked Bam? All right. I did not see that. But if you're Nakatani, don't you feel like you're very close to an Inoue super fight? Like a Tokyo Dome one? Is it more about that? I'd like to hear more details on that. All right. Brody. BC, A Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead is a really solid Radiohead album. You have to listen to it in the snow. Perfect winter album. Okay, I thought you were talking about this itch I have. No, the different kind of snow. I thought you were talking about Informa. I'll lick it bum down. Was any of that racist? I'm sorry if it was. There you go. All right. So I have listened to it casually a couple times just to kind of get a feel. It's a modern Radiohead album. But I'm delaying the deep dive. So right now, I'd say I'm at the end of my window of trying to figure out between OK Computer, Kid A, and In Rainbows, which one of those three is the best Radiohead album of all time. It's In Rainbows, guys. And Kid A is number 2. And that's insane because I never thought there could be a better Radiohead album than OK Computer. I think it might, you could even say, if you were even like, that's the best album of the 90s, I'd be like, I think you're right. Just like you could say Kid A is the best album of the 2000s. And I'd be like, well, okay, you're onto something here. Although In Rainbows is maybe even that much better. But I need to get off that grind. I already know the bends front and back. I'm very uneducated on their debut, Pablo Honey. Although people like Corey Marlin, MK Fan, is like, yo, dude, that's a great one too. I own Amnesiac. I'd say I like a lot. Don't love it yet. And the one I had the hardest time on was the Hail to the Chief, which I own. And I'd say the first 13 listens, I'm like, this ain't it. Say for me, there's really isn't lyrics as much as there's groaning. But I'll have to say, from the bowels of the eighth row, I mean, deep on eighth row, I was determined to understand 2003's Hail to the Thief. And I would say the last 2 listens I've had I'm getting there. I opened new doors. I took the next step. And that might be their most art rock of the art rock turn that they had. I won't say I love it. No, but I'm starting to like it. And it's look, these are projects you have to decode. You have is it you or it's them? It's probably you that needs to continue to work at it. But once you fall in line, that's the thing. Once I started to pick up on those rhythms that were at first made me want to turn around, were abrasive, then once you get settled in and then you start to hear the real magic, get some good headphones, put it on vinyl. All right, let's go. But A Moon-Shaped Pool was their most recent record, their last record, 2016. I'm not intimate with that yet. Neither am I 2011's The King of Limbs, which is arguably their lowest rated critical album. I don't know much about it. I will though. And I've been getting into The Smile, which is the spin-off group from Radiohead of Tom York and a couple other guys, and really, really loving those two. Really. And as Bravo will tell you, the bends. Yeah. I mean, look, that I got to have that debate with Raskin. Raskin's claiming, and this is with knowledge, that that's the best Radiohead album. It's like, for what it is, it's an alt rock record, right? It's an alternative rock record. It's a 5-star alternative rock record. But in my opinion, the triumvirate of OK Computer, Kid A, and In Rainbows, it's automatically a category up because it's experimental art rock that is done so ambitiously and so eccentrically that I like the Benz is a 5 out of 5 for what it is. But to me, if you're going to go the levels that they ultimately did of exploration and art rock and avant-garde and pull it off, and really make the listener have to commit and work through it. But when you get to the pot of gold at the end, and the fact that that pot of gold can change its flavor over time, the more you understand it or think you are, then it can't be the Benz. I don't think that could be the choice. And that's an all-time great alternative rock record. That's like an almost flawless start to back record, like a Back in Black or a Welcome or an Appetite for Destruction, where you're like, you know what? No filler, all killer. All right. That was our Radiohead portion of this chat. Two more, then we're out of here. Smurfo, Dr. Smurfo. You ever listen to much Zappa? No, Zappa. I have. So I have the live album, the one with the white cover that he put out. That's from the early lineup in the late '60s, and it was my dad's record, and he handed it down to me. That's the only Zappa I currently have because I'm purposely saving myself to go for it, because that's a guy you have to go for it. You got it. The guy's insanely prolific. You have to live that, in my opinion. He's the next level. He's a next level offering. He will demand your attention and your full notice. You know what I'm saying? So no, I'm still in my Radiohead era at the moment. And let's go. All right. DJ Serenity. Now I only listen to Now That's What I Call Music CD. Yeah, isn't that the best, right? Now That's What I Call Crap, Volume 18. And then finally from Johnny Markowski. BC, you look like you listen to Real Big Fish. Yeah. Sell out with me. Oh yeah. It's a band that no one ever talks about from that era that had two really good songs, and one of them with Nick Hexum of 311 guesting on it. The Grudge, right? Is that what they're called? They Jump Right In. Yeah, The Grudge. No, right? The Urge. Sorry, I'm an a-hole. The Urge. Take that back. The Urge. Kind of a forgotten ska pop band that had two fantastic hits. All right, let's get that. Yeah. Tiddlywinks. Yo, get out of here. Okay, get out of here. What do you got, Markowski? You killed the last name, by the way. All right, let me try to figure this out. Shashevsky, got it. There it is. I nailed it, right? Johanna, champion. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Nosita always says that. Real Big Fish was the house band in basketball, dude. I saw basketball so high in the theater. I don't even remember. I still don't remember. Never saw it again. There it is. That's it. I'm out of here. Thank you for playing this week, guys. Appreciate you showing up and chatting. Maybe I'm wrong on all this fear that that boxing will never be the same, or maybe I'm really right. Right? Yeah. All right. Well, meet here every week for your rebellion meetings as we figure out how to take down the evil empire. Maybe there is a spot in the Death Star we can strike. Either way, we love fights, right? It really ain't about these promoters. It's about the fights. Let's enjoy fights. Hey, there's a lot of UFC fights that we can enjoy. Okay. Also, a lot of pie. Haired pie? No, meat pie. Yes. Well, that's it. We're out of here. I'm trying to be a good dad. Thank you. Take care of yourself. Hey, this also, believe in yourself. Believe even when you have no reason to. Because that's the time when you need it the most. Maybe things haven't gone your way, but a positive attitude can slay dragons. All right. Believe it's possible. Believe. All right. There we go. That's it. That's it. We should probably get this outro here. Anthony Weller on lead guitar, right? That's what I'm talking about. This one's called the best outro in all of podcasting. Maybe we'll get a bonus. What do you want for a bonus? You want Mayorga? How about that?
Hey, that black guy, he hits hard.
Indeed, he does. Oh, you want the BC Carroll interaction from 2001? Let's do that too.
Personal, whatever you want to do to bond. We
So are
may
you
cut
married?
this out later. No. Are you?
No.
Good. All right, switch places. You have 11 points. Congratulations on that.
Yeah. He'll ask me about Herbalife. All right, I'm out of here.